Some nights don't just hide secrets, they drag you into them. Tonight's crime mystery will make you question what's real and what's rewritten. When a man returns from the dead, the city's darkest truth comes with him. And the AI that created him isn't done yet. Before we begin, tell me where and when you're watching from. Your room? Your night shift? A long drive? Or somewhere deep in the dark where stories hit harder? Welcome to Dark Pulse, home of midnight crime stories, dark mystery narrations, and the best crime thriller stories for sleep. Tonight's episode is filled with AI conspiracy, psychological suspense, deadly secrets, and a desert showdown that will stay with you long after the story ends. If you love crime thriller narration, scary stories for sleep, late-night mystery, emotional psychological thrillers, true crime-style storytelling, then settle in, because the night is long, and the truth tonight is even darker. A stranger in the night. Cold Creek Highway always looked empty after midnight, but that night it felt different. Too quiet, too still. Like the desert was holding its breath, waiting for someone to notice the wrong thing at the wrong time. When Deputy Sloan called Detective Ray Mercer at 2:46 a.m., he didn't bother hiding the tremble in his voice. "Ray, we found a truck on the highway, driver's gone, and there's something here you need to see yourself." Ray was already awake. He hadn't slept much these past few years. Old nightmares, old war memories, old ghosts. He grabbed his jacket, stepped into the cold darkness, and drove through the endless stretch of highway, where true crime mysteries often began but rarely ended cleanly. When Ray reached the scene, the air felt heavier than the night should allow. The truck's headlights still glowed weakly, cutting through the dust floating above the ground. The door hung open like someone had been pulled out violently, or had stepped out into danger willingly. There was no sound except wind brushing across dry asphalt. Even the desert insects were silent. Deputy Sloan nodded toward the dirt beside the truck. "Look at that. You ever seen anything like it?" Ray stepped closer. A symbol had been carved into the sand, a perfect circle sliced through the middle by a single straight line, clean, deliberate, confident. Whoever made it had certainty in their hands. He felt a strange pull in his chest. Something familiar. Something he shouldn't have remembered. He crouched down slowly. No footprints around it. "None," Sloan whispered. "Not even tire tracks leading away. It's like the guy just vanished." Ray brushed his fingers lightly across the circle, feeling the coldness of the sand despite the desert heat. The shape tugged at the edges of old buried memories. He whispered under his breath, "Where have I seen this before?" Sloan exhaled shakily. "Driver's ID says David Reeves, war veteran, recently moved back from Colorado. His sister reported him missing 6 hours ago." Ray stood still, letting the information sink in. The name David Reeves hit him harder than he expected. Reeves. Reeves. Why did that name feel like a weight? Before he could process it, Sloan pointed at the truck. "We checked inside. Blood on the rear seat, and the dash cam recorded something." Ray approached the truck door slowly. The interior smelled like dust, engine oil, and something metallic. His eyes landed on a small smear of dark red beneath the seatbelt latch. Not enough blood for a fatal injury, but just enough to suggest pain, struggle, fear. He reached into the truck and hit the dash cam playback. Static first, then soft footsteps on gravel. Heavy breathing, the kind a man made when he knew he was not alone. Then a whisper, a low, almost breathless whisper. "You should have stayed buried." The voice was distorted, hard to place, male, cold. Not angry, almost calm, too calm. Ray stopped the playback, jaw tightening. Sloan stepped closer. "What do you think?" Ray didn't answer. Instead, he stared out at the desert, feeling an old ache return behind his ribs. The kind of ache soldiers carried home in silence. "Where's his family now?" Ray finally asked. "At home. Waiting for updates?" Ray nodded. "Bag the scene. We're not calling this an accident, not a kidnapping, not yet. This feels like something else. Something deeper." Sloan swallowed. "You think he was targeted?" Ray's voice lowered. "Nobody draws a symbol like that unless they want someone to see it." Ray walked around the truck again, analyzing everything in the glow of the flashing lights. The ground showed scuffs near the passenger door, like someone had turned suddenly. A broken wristwatch lay half buried near a cactus, its glass cracked and frozen at 2:14 a.m. That exact time repeated in Ray's head. 2:14, 2:14, why does that matter? He closed his eyes for a moment, and for a split second he was no longer standing on a quiet Arizona highway. He was back in the tunnels of Afghanistan, hearing the collapse of dirt behind him, hearing someone scream his name from a distance he couldn't reach. He opened his eyes quickly, grounding himself again. "Where's the recorder from the truck's radio unit?" he asked. Sloan blinked. It wasn't in the truck." Ray stared at him, unsettled. "Dashcam was recording. The radio always records ambient channel feed. If someone removed it, they didn't want us to hear more." Sloan paled a little. "So the person who took him came prepared?" Ray nodded slowly. "Yes, this wasn't random." He paced around the truck one more time, letting instinct analyze the scene like pieces of a dark thriller puzzle. He noticed something else, tire marks far off the road, so faint they could be easily missed. They weren't from Daniel's truck. Someone else had been here. Someone who parked carefully, waited, and left the mark behind only because wind hadn't erased it yet. He traced them with his eyes. They led toward the desert, not the open road, toward isolation. Ray whispered, "Whoever took him knew exactly where to go." Sloan stepped closer. "Ray, there's something else. Daniel's sister said he'd been receiving strange emails, photos of tunnels, pictures of shadows, no sender ID, no trace." Ray's heartbeat tightened again. "Tunnels?" he asked quietly. "Did she say why?" "She said Daniel believed someone was watching him, someone from his past." Ray looked up sharply. "His past?" Sloan hesitated. He said, "Someone from his unit." Ray stared at the horizon, the cold desert wind brushing his face like a warning. Memories he had buried years ago clawed their way up, demanding attention. For years, Ray had tried to outrun ghosts that followed him from one war to another. But now, standing beside Daniel Reeves' abandoned truck, he realized the past had caught up. And it wasn't done. Ray straightened, voice steady. "I need to talk to his sister. Now." They arrived at Daniel's home close to sunrise. The house was small, quiet, the kind where people lived simple lives until tragedy came knocking. Daniel's sister, Emily Reeves, opened the door with swollen eyes. She looked like she had cried for hours. She stepped aside silently and motioned them in. Ray spoke gently. "Emily, I need to understand everything Daniel told you, even the things that didn't make sense." She nodded shakily and led him to Daniel's study room. Papers were scattered everywhere. Maps, photos, printouts of strange symbols, and newspaper clippings about unexplained deaths of veterans. Emily whispered, "Daniel said people from his unit. They were dying one by one. Accidents, suicides. But he said none of them were accidents. He kept saying the same thing. Someone wants to erase us." Ray's breath caught. A cold chill ran down his spine. "Erase us." Emily picked up a folder from the desk. "He kept this locked. Yesterday he left it open. Look." Inside were tunnel diagrams. But not just any tunnels. Ray recognized the structure, the pattern, the markings. Underground flood tunnels used in war zones. And next to them were pictures of similar tunnels in the U.S., specifically Phoenix and Las Vegas. Emily wiped her tears. He said someone from your mission was alive, and he said that exact person was hunting them. Ray felt the room tilt slightly, his voice dropped. Did he say a name? Emily hesitated. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. He said, "The Watcher." Ray's heart sank. The symbol, the voice in the recording, the tunnels, the missing radio unit, the erased soldiers, the silent killer. Emily held Ray's arm tightly. Detective, Daniel was terrified. He said this person wasn't just a killer. He said this person knew all of you. Every weakness, every secret. Ray felt a tremor crawl up his spine. And then she said the final sentence, the one that turned the case into something Ray didn't want to believe. He said the Watcher was part of your mission too. Ray didn't speak for several seconds. Not because he didn't know what to say, but because he finally remembered where he had seen that circular symbol before. And he wished he hadn't. Ray didn't move for several seconds. It felt like someone had pulled the ground out from beneath him. Emily watched him nervously, unsure whether she had said too much or too little. The thin morning light crept through the curtains, spreading faint gold across the scattered papers. Tunnel diagrams, symbols, photos of men Ray once knew. Men who were now dead. Emily whispered again, "Detective, are you all right?" Ray forced a breath. I didn't expect to hear that name again." "Who is he?" she asked, voice trembling. Ray didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the window and stared at the quiet street outside. Suburban calm. Dogs barking in the distance. Someone jogging with headphones on. Everyday normal life. A cruel contrast to the dark mystery unraveling behind this case. Finally, Ray said softly, "The Watcher was a ghost story inside our unit. A shadow none of us ever saw, but we all felt. The man who knew everything before it happened." He paused, remembering a night he had buried deep. He was the one who always showed up after the blood had dried. And he always left before the truth surfaced. Emily's voice quivered. "Daniel said he was real." Ray turned. "I know, and that's the problem." There was a long silence, the kind that scenes in true crime stories often hold, where truth begins to scrape itself through layers of lies. Ray's gaze shifted to a faded photograph pinned on Daniel's corkboard, a group picture of 5 soldiers from their unit. Daniel was one of them. Ray, too. The others, all dead. Emily followed his eyes. "He tried to reach you, Detective. He said only you might understand." Ray rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Why didn't he call me? Why not meet?" Emily swallowed. "He said someone was tracking him. That if he called you, you'd become a target too." Ray froze. "When did he say that?" "Last week." Ray clenched his jaw. Last week he had ignored a strange missed call from an unknown number, dismissing it as spam. Now the guilt stabbed through him like a knife. Emily stepped closer. "Detective, Daniel kept saying he uncovered something big, something that tied your old mission to a criminal network here in the U.S. Ray stared at her. "What kind of network?" She hesitated, then opened a drawer and pulled out a USB drive. "He told me to give you this if he ever disappeared." Ray took it, but before plugging it in, he scanned Daniel's computer setup. Carefully arranged wires, encrypted hard drives, offline systems. Daniel was cautious, obsessively cautious, a man who expected someone to break in. "Did anyone come here after Daniel went missing?" Ray asked. Emily nodded fearfully. "I think so. 2 days ago I returned home and found the back window unlocked. Nothing was stolen, but the papers on the floor were rearranged, like someone was searching for something. Ray's stomach twisted. A serial killer investigation would have led to forced entry, but an organized shadow network? They would want information, not valuables. Ray sat at Daniel's desk and plugged in the USB. A single encrypted folder appeared. Ray typed a military cipher he remembered Daniel once using. It opened. Videos, photos, documents, maps, names. His eyes widened. Emily whispered, "What is it?" Ray scrolled slowly. This isn't just a missing person case. This is something else. Something huge." He clicked on a video file. Grainy footage showed Daniel holding the camera, pale and shaken. "If you're seeing this, Ray, then I didn't make it." Emily gasped. Ray leaned forward. "I know what they did to our unit. I know why they're killing us, and I finally know who the Watcher works for. Listen carefully. Don't trust..." The video cut abruptly. The screen went black. Emily grabbed her mouth, tears streaming. "It stopped. Is that all?" Ray clicked the file again, the same abrupt cut. "Someone edited it," he murmured. "Someone who knew exactly what Daniel was trying to reveal," Emily whispered. "But he said, don't trust..." Who? Who was he trying to warn about? Ray couldn't answer. His hands shook slightly, the first visible sign of fear he had shown in years. He opened another file, tunnel photographs, but not the ones from Afghanistan. These were American, Phoenix flood tunnels, storm drains beneath Las Vegas, abandoned underground maintenance routes beneath old highways. One photo chilled Ray. The same circular symbol carved into a concrete wall. Deep, deliberate, perfect. He clicked more files, a list of names, all men from their unit, all marked deceased, everyone except Ray. Emily whispered, "Detective, what does this mean?" Ray's voice was hollow. "It means Daniel was right. Someone is hunting us." Emily broke into sobs. "Why? Why would anyone do this?" Ray exhaled slowly. "Because there was a betrayal in our unit, a betrayal the government buried. Someone wants to bury the soldiers who survived it too." Emily held her arms tightly around herself. "Detective, Daniel said the Watcher was connected to someone powerful, someone untouchable." Ray turned to her sharply. "Did he ever mention a name?" She looked hesitant, terrified. He mentioned initials, VH. Ray froze. VH. He whispered it like a curse. "Victor Hale." Emily blinked. "Do you know him?" Ray clenched his fists. Victor Hale, billionaire, philanthropist, defense contractor, public hero. But Ray had once heard whispers, dark whispers from soldiers paid to forget what they saw. Ray muttered, "If Daniel reached this close to Hale, then he's in far more danger than we thought." Emily stepped back. "Detective, do you think Daniel is still alive?" Ray didn't lie. If they wanted him dead immediately, they would have left a body. They took him for a reason. Emily trembled harder. "What reason?" Ray's voice lowered. "Information. Whatever he discovered, they want to make sure no one else ever knows." Emily began crying again. Ray placed a careful hand on her shoulder. "Emily, listen to me. I'm going to find him. I swear on everything I have left." She nodded shakily. "I trust you." Ray looked back at the symbol on Daniel's wall, a printout pinned like a taunt. A circle with a line, the Watcher's mark, a ghost returning from war, a killer hiding in plain sight. Ray turned to leave, but as he reached the door, Emily said softly, "Detective, there's one more thing." He looked back. She held up Daniel's old pocket journal. "He wrote something yesterday, the last entry." Ray took it, opened the page, 3 short sentences. "They found me. They know about the tunnels. Tell Ray. I remember who betrayed us." Ray's pulse hammered in his ears. He whispered, "Emily, this changes everything. She shook. "Detective, but please bring him home." Ray left the house as the sun barely lifted over the horizon. But instead of warmth, the rising light felt colder than the night before. He walked to his car, gripping Daniel's journal tightly. The desert air smelled like dust, secrets, and something darker. Something old. As Ray started the engine, a sudden vibration buzzed through his phone. A blocked number, a message. He opened it, a single image, the symbol, carved freshly into the dirt, and underneath it, one chilling sentence. "You're next." Ray stared at the message, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and anger. He whispered into the quiet morning air, "Then come for me." And he drove off, unaware that a figure stood half a mile away, watching him through binoculars, unmoving, silent. Like a shadow the desert itself had shaped. The watcher had seen him, and the game had begun. Ray drove for nearly an hour before he stopped on a quiet overlook, high above the desert floor. The sun was just beginning to rise, stretching pale light over the jagged rocks and empty land below. He stepped out of the car and allowed the cold wind to hit his face as he tried to slow his breathing. Every instinct he possessed, every trained response from years of war, every lesson from handling violent true crime cases, screamed that things were spiraling faster than he could control. He replayed the text message in his head. "You're next." A threat? Or an invitation? Hard to tell. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Sloan. Ray answered quietly. "Go ahead." "Ray, we found something else at the highway scene." Sloan hesitated. "It was under a rock. We think the wind uncovered it." Ray braced himself. "What is it?" "Dog tags. Daniel's." Ray shut his eyes. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. But before he hung up, Sloan added, "Ray, the tags were arranged, not dropped. Arranged deliberately." Ray clenched the steering wheel. "How?" "In a straight line, pointing east." Ray whispered, "Like a direction?" "Exactly. But here's the part that'll bother you. A second set of prints appeared in the sand before the wind wiped them, boots military grade." Ray froze. "Size?" 11. Ray's blood chilled. Daniel's size was 10. Someone else had stood there, someone who watched Daniel disappear. Ray swallowed hard. "Secure the scene. Do not touch anything else." When Ray ended the call, he let his hands fall to his sides. The weight of the case pressed into his ribs like a physical force. The cold case investigation had just evolved into something far darker, a psychological thriller playing out in real time. He took one more breath before returning to his car. Driving back, Ray's mind unraveled memories he had locked away for years. Helicopter blades echoing against canyon walls, gunfire bouncing inside narrow tunnels. A man screaming, a betrayal buried in military silence, and the symbol, the same exact circle, scratched in chalk on a tunnel wall before everything went dark. He whispered under his breath, "I should have destroyed that part of my memory forever." When Ray arrived at the highway, Sloan waved him over. "Look." Daniel's dog tags lay exactly as Sloan described, straight line pointing east. Ray knelt and stared at them for a long moment. Sloan whispered, "Ray, does this feel like a serial killer case to you? Or something else?" Ray didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "This isn't a killer who enjoys chaos. This is someone who leaves instructions, someone who plays with his victims before finishing them." Sloan swallowed. "True crime nightmares always start like this." Ray nodded. "Yeah, and the worst ones end with a signature." Then Ray noticed something else, a faint mark in the sand inches away from the tags. He brushed dust aside, another symbol, but not a full one, only half, like the watcher had drawn it. then changed his mind. Or maybe he wanted Ray to finish it. Ray stood and looked east, following the direction the tags pointed. Miles of desert stretched that way. But beyond that, Phoenix. Ray murmured, "He wants me to follow him." Sloane whispered, "That's insane." Ray answered softly, "It's the oldest trick. Predators always pull you by curiosity." Sloane ran a hand through his hair. "What do we do?" Ray's voice hardened. "We go to Phoenix." He turned toward his car, but Sloane called out, "Ray, I thought you said you didn't remember the symbol." Ray froze. His back stiffened. He turned slowly. "I said I hadn't seen it in years. Not that I didn't remember." Sloane frowned. "So where did you see it?" Ray locked eyes with him. "In a place no one was supposed to survive." And then Ray walked away. The drive to Phoenix carried a heavy silence, broken only by Ray's thoughts spiraling into places he rarely visited. He remembered the night in Afghanistan when everything went wrong. A mission planned under secrecy, a tunnel collapse, a man disappearing without a trace, and a rumor that one soldier had betrayed the others for money and freedom. Ray clenched the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. No more running from the past. By the time he reached the city, the sun was high, too bright for a day filled with so much darkness. Ray parked outside the Phoenix Police Field Office and stepped out, scanning the street. Every passerby felt like a threat. Every parked car felt like a hiding place. This was the kind of atmosphere where thriller stories took shape. The kind where danger blended seamlessly into ordinary life. Inside the office, he was greeted by Detective Ava Cortez, an investigator he trusted enough to share the basics of Daniel's disappearance. Ava raised her eyebrows when she heard the details. "Ray, this sounds like a pattern, a dangerous one." Ray nodded. "That's why I need access to anything Daniel reported or researched here." Ava led him to a quiet room and logged into their internal system. "We got a call from him 3 days ago. He sounded terrified. He mentioned someone watching him. Someone who knew where he lived. Someone he couldn't shake off." Ray felt his stomach twist. "Why wasn't I informed?" Ava looked apologetic. "He didn't mention your name, and he refused to give details. He only said he'd figured out the connection between the tunnels and the symbol." Ray stared at the floor. "He was closing in on someone," Ava asked gently. "You think this is part of a bigger true crime conspiracy?" Ray answered instantly. "Yes, and Phoenix is one of the points on the map." Ava frowned. "What map?" Ray pulled Daniel's folder from his jacket. Inside were highlighted tunnel routes, not random, strategic, hidden beneath the city. Ray whispered, "The same. Tunnels Victor Hale's companies helped build." Ava's head snapped up. "Ray, you think Hale is connected to this?" Ray didn't blink. "I think he's running it." Ava exhaled slowly. "Ray, that man funds half the state's political campaigns. You accuse him without proof, you'll lose your career." Ray looked at the symbol printed on Daniel's paper. "I don't need a career. I need answers." Ava hesitated, then said, "There's someone who can help you. Someone already inside Hale's circle." Ray felt tension build in his chest. "Who?" Ava lowered her voice. "An undercover agent named Lena Brooks." Ray stared. "Brooks? That name?" "She works for Hale?" Ava shook her head. "No, she works against him. But she's deep. Very deep. If you talk to her, you follow her rules. Her cover is fragile." Ray nodded. "Where do I find her?" Ava scribbled an address and slid it across the table. "Old hotel in downtown, room 7B. She checks in every few days." Ray took the paper silently. Before he walked out, Ava called out, "Ray, be careful. If Hale is involved in this, you're walking into a war. Ray paused at the doorway. I've been in worse. But as he stepped into the hallway, a shiver crawled up his spine. Someone was watching him. He couldn't explain how he knew. He just did. Years of surviving war zones had sharpened his senses like a blade. He turned suddenly, scanning the distant parking lot outside the glass windows. A man in a hooded jacket stood near a streetlight, his face hidden, his posture still, staring directly at Ray. Ray's breath hitched. The man lifted his hand slightly, not waving, not gesturing, just acknowledging. Then the man turned and walked away. Ava walked up behind him. Ray, what happened? Ray whispered. He's here. Who? Ray swallowed hard. The Watcher. Ava stiffened. Ray, that could have been anyone. No, Ray said. He wanted me to see him. That's how people like him work. They show you their shadow before they destroy your truth. Ava stepped closer. Did you get a plate number? Look at his car? Anything? Ray shook his head. He didn't come by car. Ava frowned. Then how did he? Ray whispered. He doesn't need transportation. He follows people like a shadow. And Ray meant every word. He left the building immediately. He needed answers, needed direction, needed to find Lena Brooks. Phoenix traffic buzzed with normal life. Kids shouting in schoolyards, buses rumbling through sun-bleached streets, people rushing to work. But Ray felt none of that normalcy. He only felt the weight of a serial killer investigation that had now turned into something more sinister. A dark thriller spiraling towards something he wasn't prepared to face. When he reached the old hotel downtown, he paused outside room 7B. He knocked. Silence. He knocked again. A voice whispered from behind the door. Say your name. Ray Mercer. Silence again. Then the voice spoke quietly. Come in, and close the door behind you. We don't have much time. Ray pushed open the door and stepped inside. He didn't know that this moment, this single step, would change everything he thought he knew about Daniel, about Hale, about the tunnels, and about the Watcher. Because Lena Brooks knew more than Ray ever imagined. And she was already on the Watcher's list too. A bullet from the past. The room smelled of dust, old carpet, and stale cigarette smoke, as if every secret whispered inside it had soaked into the walls. Ray stepped in carefully, closing the door behind him. His instincts were on high alert. The dim lamp in the corner cast soft shadows across peeling wallpaper. A small table cluttered with files and a woman standing near the window watching the street below with eyes that didn't blink much. Lena Brooks turned slowly, her expression unreadable. She was in her early 30s, sharp features, dark hair pulled back tightly, posture straight like someone who had lived under constant threat. Her voice carried no fear when she finally spoke. You shouldn't have come here without backup. Ray studied her. I don't use backup unless I know who the enemy is. She smirked faintly. Then you shouldn't be here at all. A long silence settled between them, thick with the kind of tension only found in psychological thriller stories where two people meet in the middle of a storm they didn't choose. Ray broke the silence. You knew Daniel Reeves. Lena's face tightened. Yes, and now he's gone. Ray stepped farther in. Gone or taken? Taken. She finally turned fully to him. That's not a theory, that's a fact. Ray inhaled slowly. Then we're on the same side. Are we? Lena walked closer until she stood a few feet from him. Before I trust you, you're going to tell me what you think happened to him. Ray didn't hesitate. Someone from our old unit is cleaning up the past, killing anyone connected to a classified mission that went wrong overseas. Lena stared at him for a long moment, her expression shifting subtly. Not surprise, but recognition, as if she'd been waiting for Ray to say those exact words. She stepped back and pointed toward a chair. Sit. We don't have much time. Ray sat, fight ready. Lena paced, gathering scattered papers from the table. You're a good detective, she said quietly. But you're walking blind inside a battlefield you don't understand. Ray kept his tone steady. Then enlighten me. Lena dropped the files on the table. Daniel came to me 3 weeks ago. He said someone from your military past was connected to a criminal network operating right here in Phoenix. She tapped a photograph, a blurred image of a man entering a black SUV. He said this person wasn't just connected, he was leading it. Ray leaned in. Victor Hale. Lena's eyes flickered. So Daniel told you. He didn't have to, Ray muttered. The initials were enough. Lena lowered herself into the chair opposite him. Hale hides behind charity foundations, tech investments, clean energy projects. But below the surface, he runs arms trafficking routes, money laundering, and black site torture operations. Daniel was close to proving it. Ray's jaw tensed. You're undercover in Hale's network. Yes, she said. And I've been in deeper than anyone else. Daniel risked everything by contacting me. I told him to stop digging. He didn't listen. Ray's voice sharpened. He never listened when he believed someone was in danger. Lena stared at him, a slight shift in her expression. You knew him well. Ray looked away for a moment, memories clawing back. He saved my life once, in the tunnels. The night everything went wrong. Lena leaned forward. Tell me. Ray hesitated. He hadn't spoken about that night in years. The classified mission, the betrayal, the screams, the symbol scratched on the wall in the faint glow of emergency lights. But if Lena was truly deep inside Hale's network, she deserved to understand how far back this story went. Ray took a breath and began. We were stationed near the Helmand Valley, tracking insurgents who used old underground irrigation tunnels. Our unit was 6 men, close-knit, trusted each other. His voice softened. Or so we thought. Lena listened intently, not interrupting once. One night, Command sent us into a tunnel with faulty intel. We walked right into an ambush. Gunfire echoed in the dark, dust falling from the ceiling, and someone sealed the exit behind us. Lena's eyes widened slightly. Sealed? You mean? Ray nodded. A controlled detonation. Someone on the outside triggered it. Lena whispered, Betrayal. Ray continued, Daniel dragged me deeper into the tunnels when the roof started collapsing. He kept me alive long enough for a second team to dig us out. 3 men died that night. The 4th vanished. Vanished how? Lena asked. Ray's face darkened. We assumed he was crushed, but Daniel swore he saw a figure walking away in the dust before the collapse. A tall man, calm, like he wasn't afraid. Lena whispered, The Watcher. Ray nodded, his voice low. That symbol carved on the wall, it was next to the place where the 4th soldier disappeared. Lena's breath caught. You saw the symbol there? Ray's eyes hardened. I told myself I imagined it, because the alternative was impossible. Lena stood and paced, processing everything. So Daniel believed the man who betrayed your unit survived, and that the Watcher works for Hale. Ray nodded once. That's my conclusion, too. A chilling stillness filled the room. Lena finally spoke. Then you need to understand something important. Hale doesn't kill people randomly. He kills to erase, to control, to silence. Ray nodded grimly. Daniel was silenced. No, Lena said, shaking her head. Daniel was taken because he found something Hale cannot afford anyone to know. Ray raised an eyebrow. What did he find? Lena pressed her lips together, choosing her words carefully. Something about your mission. Something Hale buried overseas. Something that ties the tunnels there to the tunnels here. Ray felt his chest tighten. Show me. Lena hesitated only a second before walking to an old suitcase beside her bed. She opened it and pulled out a heavily worn folder. These are copies. Originals are hidden in a place Hale can't reach. Ray took the folder and opened it. His eyes widened immediately. Blueprints, maps, construction documents, all signed by Hale's private defense company. Some for tunnels in Afghanistan, some for tunnels beneath Phoenix, some for tunnels beneath a restricted training facility Ray had never known existed. Ray whispered, "These tunnels. They're connected." Lena nodded. "Exactly. Hale built mirrored systems overseas and here. Same structure, same access points, same security flaws." Ray looked up slowly. "Why?" Lena sat again, her voice low. "Because Hale is running something across continents. Something so dark that even criminal organizations avoid it." Ray's pulse quickened. "What is it?" Lena hesitated. "Human cargo." Ray stilled. Lena whispered, "Trafficked soldiers, war prisoners, people he needs disappeared." Ray stared at her in horror. "You're telling me?" "Yes," Lena said. "Hale uses tunnels to move people the world isn't supposed to see. Daniel found evidence of past captives linked to your unit's mission. Evidence that someone in your squad was taken alive." Ray felt every muscle in his body lock. "Who?" Lena exhaled shakily. "David Reeves." Ray's mouth dropped open. "Daniel's brother? David died overseas." "No," Lena said firmly. "Daniel believed David survived, and Hale kept him." Ray shook his head. "That's impossible. We saw his body." "You saw fragments," Lena corrected. "Not a body, not a face. Daniel thought the Watcher might actually be David." Ray went silent. Completely silent. Not because he refused to believe it, but because deep inside something told him it could be true. Lena stepped closer. "Ray, you need to understand, Hale is not just covering a crime, he's covering an entire system of crimes. Your unit was collateral damage," Ray whispered, "and Daniel uncovered it." "Yes," she replied quietly, "and that's why Hale wants him alive, for now." Ray placed both hands on the table, grounding himself as waves of memory surged through him. Lena watched him carefully. "There's more." Ray looked up sharply. "More?" Lena nodded and opened another document. Daniel decoded something before he disappeared. A message left behind by the Watcher. A warning. Ray stared at the message scrawled in faded ink. It said, "Ray will come. Bring him to the tunnels." Lena whispered, "He's waiting for you." Ray's pulse hammered. "Why me?" he whispered. Lena answered with a chilling certainty. "Because you're the last survivor who knows the truth. And the Watcher never leaves unfinished business." Ray stared at her, the weight of destiny crashing onto him. "He wants me," Ray whispered. "He wants me to follow him." Lena nodded slowly. "And he's leading you into the past, into the tunnels." Ray inhaled deeply, the kind of breath people take before stepping into darkness with no guarantee of returning. Lena added one last thing, her voice barely above a whisper. "And Ray, if David really is alive, then he's not the same man you remember." Ray whispered back, "None of us are." He closed the folder and stood up. It was time to face the past he spent years running from. Time to follow the Watcher. Time to walk into the tunnels again. Ray didn't leave Lena's hotel room immediately. Something about the way she stood near the window, shoulders stiff, fingers trembling ever so slightly, told him she was carrying far more than she had revealed. The silence between them stretched long enough that Ray finally broke it. "Lena," he said quietly, "why are you helping me? Really helping me. This goes beyond undercover work." She didn't turn around. Because Daniel wasn't the first soldier who came to me for help. Ray's heartbeat paused. Who else? Lena's voice cracked in a way that startled him. A man who disappeared 4 months ago. He was terrified. He told me someone was following him, watching him from rooftops and alleyways. He said he heard footsteps in tunnels at night, when no one else was supposed to be there. Ray stepped closer. What was his name? She whispered. Marcus Hale. Ray blinked. Marcus Hale. Victor Hale's son. Lena nodded slowly, face pale. He tried to escape the network. He tried to expose his father. Ray gripped the back of the chair. And what happened to him? His body was found in a drainage shaft, Lena whispered. But the autopsy report was sealed. Ray shook his head. Your file said Hale's son died from a drug overdose. That's what Hale wanted the world to believe, she said bitterly. But Marcus wasn't an addict. He was a witness. Ray's voice hardened. A witness to what? Lena finally turned, her eyes meeting his. To the moment he learned the Watcher existed. He said he saw someone standing in the hallway of their mansion at 2 a.m. Someone who shouldn't have been there. Ray's skin tingled. The Watcher? Lena nodded. His father told him he imagined it, but Marcus knew what he saw. He ran. He hid. He came to me. I begged him to leave the state, but he said, they already marked me. They marked me the day I saw the symbol. Ray's breath tightened. And then he died. Lena nodded, looking away again. Hale silences his own blood to protect the Empire. That's the monster we're dealing with. Ray felt a surge of cold anger rise in his chest. The kind of anger that only surfaces in dark psychological thrillers where truth is more dangerous than bullets. He inhaled deeply. Lena, if Hale killed his own son, then Daniel doesn't stand a chance. Lena walked past him, her expression hard. That's why we move fast. Hale will kill Daniel once he gets everything he needs from him. And what he needs. She exhaled shakily. Is you. Ray's brow furrowed. Me? Yes, Lena said, pacing. Hale knows you survived the tunnel betrayal. He knows Daniel trusted you, whatever Hale is hiding. You and Daniel are the last 2 people alive who could uncover it, Ray whispered. Then Hale will come for me too. He already has, Lena said softly. You saw the man outside the precinct. Ray nodded. The Watcher. Lena's jaw tightened. Ray, the Watcher doesn't just follow people. He studies them, learns their routines, weaknesses, patterns. He becomes the shadow they never notice. Ray ran a hand through his hair. Why show himself? Lena replied. Because he wants you to feel hunted. He wants you nervous, off balance. When victims panic, they make mistakes. Ray met her gaze. He doesn't know me. Lena held his stare. He knows you better than you think. Ray tried to brush that off, but it stuck inside him like a splinter he couldn't remove. He asked quietly, Lena, what else did Daniel give you? She hesitated again, a sign she was about to reveal something heavy. She walked to the desk drawer and slid it open, pulling out a small black notebook. It was old, the spine cracked, pages curled from sweat and dirt. Ray recognized it instantly. Daniel's field journal from Afghanistan. His voice lowered. Where did you get this? Daniel dropped it in my mailbox the night before he disappeared, Lena whispered. He said everything began with this journal. Ray opened it slowly, carefully. Each page carried fragments of their past. Coordinates, routes, names of villages, sketches of tunnels, coded entries, and personal notes. But when Ray flipped halfway through, he stopped. A page was torn out. Only small scraps remained. Ray whispered, someone ripped a page out. Lena nodded. Daniel told me that page held the truth about the 4th soldier. Ray's heart dropped. David Reeves. Lena lowered her eyes. Daniel believed David wasn't just alive. He believed David was forced into becoming Hale's weapon. Ray felt a chill crawl down his spine, the kind of chill that filtered into every corner of a crime thriller when the truth edges too close. He whispered. Daniel thought the Watcher was David. Yes, Lena whispered. But Daniel also said something else, something that scared him more than the Watcher himself. Ray looked at her sharply. What? Lena swallowed. He said the Watcher wasn't acting alone. Ray's shoulders tensed. Explain. Daniel believed, Lena said slowly, that the Watcher had a handler, someone who gave him targets, someone who told him who to kill and who to spare. Ray's voice turned stone cold. Hale. Lena nodded. But Daniel also suspected there was someone above Hale, someone no one has ever seen. Ray stiffened. Above Hale? He's one of the most untouchable men in the country. I know, Lena said. But Daniel said the network is bigger than any one man. Ray exhaled. So what did Daniel find that got him taken? Lena opened the notebook to the last written page. This. Ray leaned in. Daniel's handwriting was shaky, rushed. Ray, I found the file they buried, the tunnels, the disappearances, the fourth soldier, the truth about Hale's contractor. It wasn't an attack. It was an extraction. Ray froze. The mission wasn't meant to kill us, Lena whispered. It was meant to take someone alive. Ray's mind reeled. Who? Lena shook her head. Daniel didn't know, but he said someone in your unit had information Hale desperately wanted. Ray repeated softly. Information? Lena added. Daniel believed Hale detonated the tunnel not to kill you, but to capture whoever that soldier was. Ray swallowed hard. And Daniel thought that soldier was David. Lena nodded slowly. David was always quiet, observant. He knew things others didn't. Daniel said he kept a separate notebook no one else ever saw. Ray whispered, and when the explosion happened, David vanished. Exactly, Lena said. Daniel thought Hale took him, used him, broke him. Ray felt a crushing weight spread in his chest. Everything he thought he knew about that night, everything he buried or knowed was unraveling. Lena sat down heavily on the bed. Ray, if the Watcher really is David, then he isn't the same person anymore. Ray nodded numbly. He's a weapon. A weapon with memories, Lena added coldly. Memories of betrayal. And Hale probably twisted those memories to turn him into the perfect ghost. Ray's voice cracked unexpectedly. Daniel thought he could save him. And that's why he was taken, Lena whispered. Because Hale can't risk David remembering the truth. Ray closed his eyes. A rushing sound filled his ears. He saw Daniel laughing in the mess hall, saw David reading quietly with a flashlight, saw the night the tunnel collapsed. Smoke, dust, shouting, scraping rock. Daniel pulling Ray through a collapsing passage while David disappeared in the roar. He whispered, I failed them once. Lena stepped close and said softly, Then don't fail them again. Ray opened his eyes slowly, controlled. He spoke with a new tone and sharp, unbreakable. Where's Hale now? Lena inhaled. Las Vegas. He's hosting a private auction 2 days from now. Ray asked, And the tunnels? Lena nodded. There's a direct access point beneath his Vegas compound. Daniel marked it on his map. Ray felt his pulse steadied, like a man preparing for war. I'm going, he said. Lena grabbed his wrist. Ray, if you walk into Hale's world unprepared, you won't come out. Ray stared at her. Then you're coming with me. Lena hesitated, fear flickering through her eyes. Fear of Hale, fear of discovery, fear of the Watcher. But after a moment, she nodded. For Daniel, she whispered. Ray replied, "For all of us." A sudden sound echoed in the hallway outside, a soft metallic scrape like a boot against tile. Lena froze. Ray turned sharply toward the door. Another sound followed, a slow, deliberate tap. Someone standing there, waiting, watching. Ray whispered, "Is that him?" Lena shook her head slowly, whispering back, "No." The watcher doesn't announce himself. The tapping stopped. A small shadow moved beneath the door. Then, a single piece of paper slid underneath it. Ray stared, pulse hammering. He picked it up, a symbol, drawn in thick black ink, and beneath it, Las Vegas, midnight. Lena backed up. "He knows we're coming." Ray folded the paper. "No," he said softly. "He's inviting us." But for a long moment, neither Ray nor Lena moved. The quiet inside the room turned suffocating, thick with the weight of the message lying in Ray's hand. The symbol stared up at them, black ink bleeding slightly into rough paper fibers, almost pulsing with a life of its own. Beneath it, the location, Las Vegas. Midnight. Lena whispered, "He's taunting us." Ray shook his head slowly. "No, taunting is personal. This is something else." "What then?" she whispered. Ray stared at the symbol, voice dropping into a dark, controlled tone. "This is choreography. He's not just watching us, he's guiding us." Lena's breath hitched. "Guiding us into what?" Ray folded the paper and slipped it into his pocket. "Into the next step." Lena moved to the window, peeking through the blinds. "Ray, this means he was close enough to listen, close enough to approach the door without being heard. That means he knows this place. He knows your arrival time. He knows—" Ray finished for her. "He knows everything." Lena turned from the window, fear flashing in her eyes. "If he knows everything, then he knows we're planning to go after Hale. He knows we're looking for Daniel. He knows—" Ray stepped closer. "He already knew that before we walked in." Lena exhaled shakily. "Then why help us? Why give us a lead?" Ray answered quietly. "Because this isn't a chase, it's a test." Lena blinked. "A test?" "Yes," Ray said. "And if the Watcher truly is David's, then this might be the only way he can reach me without Hale knowing." Lena crossed her arms, processing that. "So David is—" "What? Playing two sides?" Ray didn't answer immediately. He wasn't sure. The Watcher's identity hovered like a ghost, half human, half myth, all danger. A knock shattered the silence. A sudden, jarring knock. Lena grabbed her gun instantly. Ray reached for his own. Another knock. Firm, slow, controlled. Ray mouthed, "Not the Watcher." Lena nodded. Ray moved cautiously and opened the door a few inches. A young woman stood there, and trembling, wide-eyed, clutching a backpack to her chest. She looked barely 20. Ray's tone hardened. "Who are you?" she swallowed. "You're Detective Ray Mercer, right?" Ray froze. Lena stepped beside him, gun lowered but still ready. "Who are you?" The woman looked over her shoulder nervously. I don't have time. He told me to come to you." Ray's eyes narrowed. "Who told you?" she whispered, voice cracking under fear. "Daniel Reeves." Ray stepped forward so fast that Lena nearly grabbed his arm. "You saw Daniel? When? Where is he?" The woman shook, lip trembling. "I can't stay here. They'll kill me." Ray opened the door wider and ushered her inside quickly. "Close it, Lena." Lena locked the door and pulled curtains shut. "Sit down," she instructed gently, though her voice still carried an edge. The woman obeyed, legs shaking. Ray leaned down. "Start from the beginning." She wiped her eyes. "My name is Katie. I work at a motel near the highway. Daniel checked in 2 nights before he disappeared. He looked scared, not drunk, not paranoid. Just scared." Ray nodded. "Go on." "He stayed in room 19. Katie continued. Barely slept. He kept pacing the hall. He said he was waiting for someone. And then yesterday, a man came to the motel, tall, quiet, hooded. He asked me what room Daniel was in. Lena exchanged a glance with Ray. "The Watcher," she whispered. Katie continued, voice trembling harder. "Daniel came down the stairs as soon as he saw that man. He grabbed my arm and whispered, 'If I disappear, find a man named Ray Mercer. Tell him the tunnels aren't what he thinks. Tell him—'" She broke down, sobbing. Ray crouched lower, voice gentler. "What did he say?" "Katie, what did Daniel want to tell me?" Katie sniffled, trying to steady herself. He said that night in Afghanistan that you didn't see what really happened." Ray froze. A chill shot down his spine. "I remember everything about that night," he said tightly. Katie shook her head. "Daniel said no one remembers it right, not even him, not even David. He said, 'Your memories were changed.'" Ray stiffened. "Changed? How?" Katie whispered. "He didn't say. He said Hale did something to you all." Ray felt physically dizzy. "What did he mean by that?" Katie whispered. "Daniel said Hale hired someone, a specialist who could reshape perception, someone who could make trauma look different in a soldier's mind." Lena inhaled sharply. "Psychological conditioning?" Ray whispered, stunned. "Memory tampering?" Katie nodded. "Daniel said he saw the truth recently. Something in those tunnels triggered a memory, something he was never supposed to remember." Her voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "He said he remembers the Watcher pulling him out, not leaving him behind." Ray blinked. "What?" Lena whispered. "Ray, if David saved Daniel instead of betraying him, then everything changes." Katie wiped her face. "Daniel said the Watcher saved him twice, first overseas and then here. He said the Watcher didn't want to kill him, he wanted to warn him." Ray felt his heartbeat hammering painfully in his chest. His mind strained to separate fact from buried memory. Katie continued. "But Daniel said the Watcher is broken. Hale twisted him, manipulated him, turned him into a weapon." Ray shut his eyes for a moment, overwhelmed. Katie leaned closer, whispering, "Daniel said David still remembers you, Ray. He said he remembers your voice. He said that's why you're still alive." Lena stared at Ray in disbelief. "He spared you." Ray's voice cracked quietly. "Why?" Katie hesitated before revealing the most heartbreaking truth yet. "Because," she whispered, "Daniel said David always saw you as his older brother." Ray went still, completely still. Lena whispered, "Ray, I didn't know." Ray swallowed hard. "I didn't either." Katie took a shaky breath. "But Daniel also said, the Watcher is losing control. Hale keeps him in the dark, isolates him, commands him. If David ever remembers everything, Hale will destroy him." Ray steadied himself. "Then we get Daniel, break Hale's system and find David." Katie nodded. "There's one more thing." Ray leaned in. She pulled something from her backpack. A folded piece of cloth, burned at the edges, stained with dust and tiny flecks of dried blood. Ray unfolded it. A torn military patch, David Reeves's unit patch. Ray's throat tightened. He whispered, "Where did Daniel get this?" Katie sobbed softly. "Daniel said he found it in one of the tunnels." Ray's hands trembled slightly, the first time Lena saw any crack in his control. Katie whispered, "He said David was alive and he wants you to find him." Ray took a long breath, absorbing all the horror and hope tangled inside her words. Lena placed a hand gently on Ray's arm. "Ray, we need to move. The Watcher's message, Hale's auction, Daniel's warnings, everything points to Vegas." Ray nodded slowly. "Yes. And if David is really alive, he'll be there." He turned to Katie. You need protection. You can't go back to that motel. You're a target now. Katie wiped her tears. I know, but Daniel said I had to find you. I had to warn you. You did, Ray said softly. You did more than enough. Lena added, I'll arrange a safe house for her, somewhere Hale can't reach. Katie looked terrified. Will he come for me? Ray did not lie. If they know you spoke to Daniel, yes. Katie trembled. Then what do I do? Ray handed her the military patch gently. Hold on to this, and stay hidden. We will find Daniel. We will end this. She nodded, clutching the patch to her chest. Ray turned to Lena, voice firm. We leave for Vegas tonight. Lena nodded. I'll pack my gear. Ray walked toward the door, but before he opened it, he paused. Katie whispered, Detective. Ray looked back. She said softly, Daniel told me something else, something I don't understand. Ray waited. Katie swallowed hard. He said, Tell Ray he didn't fail us that night. He didn't leave anyone behind. Ray froze. Katie continued, Daniel said the memory you carry, it wasn't yours. Someone put it there. Ray felt his entire world shift. Lena stepped closer, whispering, Ray, what did you think you did that night? Ray whispered tightly, voice trembling. I thought I left David behind. I thought I failed him. Katie shook her head. Daniel said, the truth is the opposite. Ray stared at her, shaken to his core. The opposite? Katie nodded. Daniel said David saw you as the only person who tried to save him. Ray backed up a step, breath leaving his lungs. Lena whispered, Ray, are you okay? Ray opened the door slowly. No, he whispered, but I will be. He looked at both women, one broken by fear, the other hardened by secrets, and said, Las Vegas is where this ends. Then he stepped out into the hallway, unaware that far above them on the motel rooftop across the street, a man stood silently. Tall, still, hooded, watching Ray walk away, not approaching, not threatening, just watching. Like a ghost clinging to the edge of memory. The watcher lifted a gloved hand and traced a small circle in the air before vanishing into the morning heat. The invisible network in downtown Phoenix, Las Vegas looked nothing like the city of bright lights Ray remembered from years ago. As he and Lena drove down the highway toward the skyline, the neon glow flickered through a haze of heat and dust, blending into something that felt less like a celebration and more like a warning. Vegas always had a strange dual life, one for tourists chasing fantasy and one hidden beneath it all, where real danger moved in silence. Tonight, Ray was heading straight into the hidden side. Lena watched him from the passenger seat, studying his face as streetlights slid across it in flashes. He looked ahead with the steady calm of someone preparing for war. But beneath that calm, she sensed the earthquake forming. Too many truths hitting him too fast. After a long stretch of silence, Lena finally spoke. Ray, you haven't said a word since we left Phoenix. Ray didn't look at her. I'm thinking. About Daniel? She asked gently. About everything, Ray answered. About the tunnels, about that patch, about David, about what happened that night. Lena hesitated before saying softly, Katie's right. Trauma can distort memory. Hale's network uses psychological conditioning to break men. If he did something to your unit... Ray cut her off quietly. He did. I just didn't want to believe it. Lena lowered her gaze, then said, Ray, what did you remember from that night? Ray gripped the steering wheel tighter. The collapse, the gunfire, smoke. I remember Daniel pulling me out. I remember hearing David scream. And then nothing. I always thought I failed him. And now? Lena asked. Ray exhaled slowly. Now I'm starting to think those memories weren't mine at all. The car fell silent again. Vegas grew larger, louder, brighter. But Ray felt none of the excitement the city was known for. He felt the dark side of it, the side where men like Victor Hale built empires made of fear, blood, and secrets. Lena pointed ahead. We're 5 minutes from Hale's temporary compound. His people rent a private estate outside the Strip whenever he hosts a deal. Ray nodded. Security? Tight, Lena said. He employs ex-military, private contractors, and mercenaries. They're armed, they're disciplined, and they're loyal to Hale. Ray's jaw tensed. Loyalty can be bought. Not this time, Lena said. Hale doesn't buy loyalty, he manufactures it. Ray didn't respond, but the way his fingers tightened on the wheel told her he understood. Painfully, personally. Lena shifted, turning toward him. Ray, before we walk into this, you need to understand something. Ray glanced at her. Lena continued, her voice low. Victor Hale is not scared of the police. He's not scared of the FBI. He's not scared of Congress. The only thing he fears is the truth about what he did overseas. Ray looked forward again. That's why he's killing everyone connected to that mission. Yes, Lena whispered, because that mission wasn't just a failure, it was a cover. Ray whispered, for what? Lena took a breath before saying, for the extraction of one soldier who knew too much. The words hit Ray like a punch. David. Lena continued, that soldier, David, kept a separate journal, a second notebook, the one Daniel was searching for. Ray turned sharply. Where is it? Lena hesitated. Missing. Daniel never found it. Ray stared forward again, frustration clawing inside him. He must have hidden it, Ray said. David wasn't careless. No, Lena agreed, but Hale is relentless. If he didn't find the notebook, he found the man instead. Ray's voice dropped. And turned him into a weapon. Lena looked out the window, voice soft. What Hale does to people, it breaks them, changes them, makes them forget who they once were. Ray's voice cracked unexpectedly. And if David remembers even fragments of who he was, Hale will see him as a threat. Lena nodded. Ray murmured, then we find Daniel, and then we find David. Lena looked at him, sympathy surfacing for the first time. Ray, if David is alive, the man you knew may no longer exist. Ray's jaw tightened. Then I'll remind him. The car finally turned off the main road, heading toward a quiet residential outskirts where expensive mansions sat behind iron gates and security cameras. But one stood out. A massive estate surrounded by high walls, private guards, and tinted SUVs. Lena pointed. That's Hale's place. Ray slowed the car and parked behind an abandoned building across the street. They sat in silence for several seconds, watching the estate. Lena whispered, tonight is the auction. Hale will bring in clients from multiple countries. Arms dealers, brokers, politicians, everyone attending believes they're part of an exclusive deal. Ray understood. But they're actually part of Hale's trap. Lena nodded. Exactly. And underground, something else is happening. Ray asked quietly. Daniel? Lena shook her head. Not exactly. Ray looked at her sharply. Explain. Lena swallowed. Daniel believed Hale was moving something, or someone, through the tunnels beneath the estate. Something so important he doubled security. Ray's pulse quickened. David. I don't know, Lena whispered. But whatever Hale is hiding underground, that's where the truth is. Ray made his decision instantly. Then we're going in. Lena grabbed his arm. Ray, listen to me, the Watcher will be there. Ray looked at her. Good. Lena shook her head. No, you don't understand. If the Watcher sees you coming near Hale, he will intervene. And he is unpredictable. Ray's voice darkened. Then I won't give him a chance. Lena stared at him, seeing the storm inside him. Ray, she whispered, you're thinking emotionally. Ray looked at her sharply. And you're not? Hale is your stepfather. Lena's face tightened painfully. Yes. And that's exactly why I know how dangerous he is. He raised me to be a weapon too. I escaped. David didn't. Ray stared at her more closely. For the first time, he saw the cracks, the trauma she carried, the weight of a childhood shaped by a monster. He softened slightly. Lena, I'm not underestimating him. You are underestimating the Watcher, she whispered. He knows your patterns. He knows how you think. He knows what you fear. Ray's expression didn't change. Then I'll think like someone else, Lena whispered. That's what Hale told David before turning him into a ghost. Ray's breath caught. Lena looked away, shaking slightly. Ray, I don't want you to walk into something you can't walk out of. Ray stepped closer. Lena, I'm not dying tonight. Her voice trembled. Daniel thought the same. The silence stretched again. Ray placed a hand on her shoulder, steady, reassuring. We're getting Daniel back, he said quietly. And we're finding David. And we're ending Hale. Lena closed her eyes briefly, then nodded. They prepared quickly. Weapons checked, comms synced, escape routes memorized. Lena knew the mansion's layout by heart. Ray trusted her instincts. 15 minutes later, they crouched behind a service gate leading toward the estate's side entrance, an area mostly used by staff. Lena whispered, Guards change shift every 30 minutes. We have 20 seconds to slip in. Ray nodded. Lead the way. Lena moved first, slipping through the small service gate like a shadow. Ray followed closely, keeping low, eyes scanning every corner. They reached a side door. Lena pulled out a small device, pressed it against the lock, and within seconds, a soft click. They slipped inside. The hallway was dark, cool, and silent. Voices echoed faintly in the distance. Laughter, murmurs, the sound of glasses clinking as Hale's elite gathered upstairs. But below the surface, Ray felt something else, a faint hum beneath the floor. Mechanical, cold, rhythmic. He whispered, There, the tunnels. Lena nodded. We need to get to the basement. Hale's private access point is hidden behind a false wall. Ray looked around slowly. Where are the guards? Lena whispered back. He doesn't need guards near the tunnels. He relies on something else. Ray raised an eyebrow. What? Lena exhaled shakily. Fear. They continued down the hallway, reaching a stairwell. Lena paused, listening carefully. Ray whispered, What is it? Lena's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. We're not alone. Ray stiffened. You hear footsteps? She shook her head slowly. No. I feel him. Ray didn't move. Who? He whispered. Lena's eyes locked onto the shadows at the end of the corridor. The Watcher. Ray felt every muscle in his body tighten. The air around them shifted, as if the darkness itself was holding something inside it. Something breathing. Something waiting. Ray lowered his voice to a razor whisper. Where? Lena pointed. And Ray finally saw it. A figure standing so still he looked carved out of the wall. Hood low, face hidden, hands by his sides, watching them, watching him. Ray's heart thudded once, heavy and sharp. Lena whispered, voice breaking. He followed us. The Watcher didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't speak. He just stood there. A ghost from Ray's past, a shadow from a forgotten nightmare. A man who might have been dead. Or alive. Or something in between, Ray whispered, breath unsteady. David? The figure tilted his head slightly, a tiny motion, barely visible, but enough to rupture Ray's breath. Lena gasped softly. Ray, don't step forward. But Ray already had, because the watcher lifted a single hand and pointed at the floor. Not at Ray, not at Lena, but at a small piece of folded paper he had placed silently while they weren't looking. Ray crouched slowly and picked it up, unfolded it. A single sentence stared back at him. Not here. Not now. He's watching. Ray's chest tightened. Who is? Ray whispered. The watcher said nothing. Then he stepped backward into the shadows and disappeared. Lena grabbed Ray's arm. We need to leave, now. Ray didn't move, because as the watcher vanished, a cold voice echoed from upstairs speakers. Hale's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Hale announced warmly, tonight's auction begins now. Lena whispered, horrified, he knows we're here. Ray whispered back, then let's show him we're not running. And together, they stepped toward the basement, toward the tunnels, toward the truth Hale spent years burying, toward the heart of everything. The stairwell to the basement felt colder than it should have, not the kind of cold caused by air conditioning or underground drafts. This was the cold of fear, the kind that settled under the skin long before danger revealed its face. Ray felt Lena's breath hitch behind him as they descended the narrow metal steps, each footstep echoing with a hollow ring that made the silence heavier. Above them, Victor Hale's cheerful voice floated through the speakers, announcing expensive weapons to men who bought human suffering wrapped in polished metal. Tonight, Hale said, his smooth tone dripping with authority, we unveil prototypes never before seen outside our most trusted circle. Ray's jaw tightened. The casual excitement in Hale's voice made his stomach twist. Monsters like Hale didn't hide in shadows, they thrived in plain sight. At the base of the stairwell, Lena pressed her hand against a plain section of wall. A soft click followed, and the wall slid open silently, revealing a darker corridor behind it. This is it, she whispered. The access point. Ray entered first. The corridor stretched downward, barely lit, with cold cement walls and the faint hum of machinery vibrating through the air. Lena pulled out a small flashlight. The beam exposed scratch marks along the walls, long, thin lines, some deep, some shallow. Ray touched one with his fingertips. These aren't tool marks, Lena nodded quietly. No, these were made by someone's nails. Ray felt sick. Someone was dragged down here, Lena whispered, or someone tried to escape. The corridor narrowed as they descended deeper. After a few minutes, the air grew damp, carrying the scent of old stone and stagnant water. The faint sound of dripping echoed like a distant clock ticking down to something terrible. Ray whispered, this leads into the outer tunnel network. Lena nodded, lowering the flashlight. There are rumors that Hale stores special assets down here, prisoners, evidence, bodies. Ray stopped walking. What did Daniel think was hidden in these tunnels? Lena took a slow breath. He said someone still alive, someone Hale couldn't kill, someone Hale used. Ray looked at her sharply. David. Lena didn't answer. She didn't need to. Ray already felt the truth pulling him deeper. They reached a fork in the tunnel, two paths stretching in opposite directions. One was pitch black, the other had faint flickering lights. Ray raised his gun slightly. Which way? Lena leaned down, inspecting the ground. Small impressions in the dust, footprints, heavy boots. She pointed to the unlit path. This one. Ray nodded. But as they started walking, a sound echoed behind them. A faint metallic clink. Not a drip, not a pipe, a footstep. Ray stopped instantly. His breathing slowed. Lena whispered, Ray. Ray held up a hand. Silence. Then, another clink. Closer. Lena grabbed her gun. Is that? Ray whispered. He wouldn't reveal himself twice in one night. Then who is it? She whispered back. Ray didn't answer. His senses sharpened, adrenaline pumping like ice through his veins. A shadow stretched across the tunnel wall behind them. Someone was there. Someone watching. Someone not hiding as well as the watcher. Ray stepped back silently and whispered, "Lena, lights out." Lena clicked off her flashlight instantly. Darkness swallowed them whole. Their breaths were barely audible. The shadow moved again. Ray whispered, 3 o'clock. Lena nodded in the dark. She raised her weapon silently. Suddenly, a low exhale drifted through the tunnel behind them. A human exhale, not controlled, not careful. A mistake. Ray moved like a strike. He lunged into the darkness. Grunt. A struggle. Boots scraping on stone. A punch met Ray's jaw, but Ray slammed his shoulder forward, pinning the attacker against the wall. Lena flicked the flashlight on. A man squinted in the sudden brightness. Mid-40s, face bruised, clothes shredded, blood drying along his neck. He looked terrified. Ray pressed his forearm into the man's chest. "Who are you?" the man choked. Don't hurt me, please." Lena stepped closer, gun aimed. "Answer him." The man raised trembling hands. "Cool, my name is Elliot. Elliot Briggs. I used to work for Hale." Ray's eyes narrowed. "Used to?" Elliot nodded quickly. "I ran. I escaped through these tunnels. I've been hiding from his men for 2 days." Ray and Lena exchanged a glance. Ray loosened his hold slightly. "Why were you following us?" Elliot shook his head violently. "I wasn't. I heard voices. I thought you were Hale's men. I swear I was looking for a way out." Lena scanned him with sharp eyes. "What was your job?" Elliot stammered. "I handled deliveries, the ones that weren't supposed to exist. People, soldiers, prisoners, weapons that don't show up on any record." Ray's grip hardened. "Where's Daniel Reeves?" Elliot's eyes widened. "Reeves? The soldier? He's alive." Ray's pulse surged. "Where?" Elliot swallowed. "In the lower chamber, the one Hale calls the vault." Ray leaned closer. "What's in the vault?" Elliot looked between them, terrified. "The vault is where Hale keeps his assets. People, information, bodies, and..." He hesitated. Ray shoved him against the wall again. "And what?" Elliot's eyes watered. "And the thing he treasures most." Ray's voice dropped. "What does Hale treasure?" Elliot whispered. "His ghost." Ray felt his heart stop for a beat. "Who is the ghost?" Elliot stared into Ray's eyes, trembling violently. "The Watcher," Lena whispered. "He's being kept here?" Elliot nodded shakily. "Yes. Hale controls him. He tortures him. He isolates him. He keeps him in the vault because the Watcher is dangerous even to Hale." Ray's stomach twisted. David, alive, caged, weaponized. Ray whispered, "Take us to the vault." "No," Elliot gasped. "Hale's guards patrol every 15 minutes. The Watcher, he senses movement. He can smell it, hear it, feel it. If we go now, he'll know." Ray stepped closer. "We're already marked, so show us." Elliot shook violently. "Please, he'll kill me." Lena leaned in. Her voice turned sharp. "If you don't take us, then he'll kill you anyway." Elliot swallowed hard, then nodded, defeated. "Okay," he whispered, "follow me." He led them deeper into the tunnels. The air grew colder, thicker, heavier with every step. Then Elliot stopped. He pointed ahead. "There," he whispered. Ray and Lena moved forward slowly. The corridor opened into a wide underground chamber lit by flickering red emergency lights. Pipes overhead rattled softly. A metal door stood at the far end, massive, reinforced, sealed tight with biometric locks. The vault. Ray felt something inside him shift, a deep, primal instinct screaming that something lived behind that door. Something dangerous, something broken, something familiar. Elliot whispered, He's in there. The Watcher. Hale keeps him locked up when he's not using him. Ray approached the door, touching the cold metal. Lena whispered, "Ray, be careful." Ray didn't answer, because from the other side of the door, a faint sound emerged, soft, barely audible. A breath, a human breath, short, shaky, alive. Ray whispered, voice cracking, "David!" The breath on the other side stopped, but then a whisper came through the metal, low, hoarse, recognizing, "Ray!" Ray stumbled back a step, chest collapsing inward. Lena grabbed his arm. "Ray!" But Ray was frozen because the voice behind the vault door was the same voice he once heard in the tunnels overseas. A voice he thought he'd never hear again. His best friend's voice, his brother in arms, David Reeves, alive and whispering his name. For several seconds, Ray couldn't breathe. The vault door felt like a living thing beneath his hand, each vibration carrying the echo of a voice he had buried in his nightmares. David's voice. The voice of a man Ray thought he had failed, thought he had lost in the dust and fire of a collapsing tunnel years ago. He whispered again, barely managing the sound. "David, it's me." Silence, then a soft, broken exhale seeped through the metal. Elliot stepped back fearfully. "This is a mistake. You can't talk to him. Not like this." Lena glared at him. "Quiet." Ray pressed his forehead against the door, lowering his voice. "David, can you hear me?" A long pause. Then the whisper came again. Faint, strained, as if pulled out of a throat that hadn't spoken in days. "Ray." The sound fractured something inside Ray. His knees weakened. For a moment, he felt 16 years collapse into one single breath. Lena whispered, "Ray, he recognizes you." Ray swallowed hard. "David, I'm here. I'm going to get you out of there." David's voice came again, quiet but clearer than before. "No, don't," Ray frowned. "What? Why?" David whispered, voice trembling. "Trap. Ray, he knows you're here." Ray stepped back, adrenaline spiking. Hale?" David didn't answer. Instead, the faintest scrape echoed from behind the metal, as if David dragged himself closer to the door. Ray could imagine him pressing his palms flat against the other side, leaning in, trying to carve some message through the steel. Ray whispered, "David, we know about Hale. We know what he did. We know he took you. We know—" David cut him off, his voice suddenly sharp despite its weakness. "Ray, listen." Ray leaned closer. A brittle, tense silence stretched. Finally, David whispered 4 words that froze Ray's blood. "He's not alone tonight." Ray's eyes widened. Lena whispered sharply, "Ray, back away from the door, now!" Elliot stumbled backward, looking around frantically. If the Watcher is talking, still it means he's lucid. And if he's lucid, Ray snapped, "Finish your sentence." Elliot whispered, terrified, "It means Hale triggered the conditioning early." Lena's breath caught. "Early? What does that mean?" "It means," Elliot whispered, "David won't stay coherent for long. His mind, it shifts between clarity and obedience." Ray shut his eyes tightly, David's humanity flickering like a broken bulb. David whispered again, slower this time, like his thoughts were slipping. "Ray, you shouldn't be here." Ray put both palms against the door. "I'm not leaving without you." "Please," David whispered, voice breaking. Don't let him make me." Ray felt something wet on his hand, sweat or tears, he didn't know. David's voice was raw like a child's, terrified and pleading. Lena whispered, voice soft but shaking, "Ray, this isn't the moment. If David is shifting, he could turn violent." Ray clenched his teeth. "I don't care." "You should," Elliot whispered. Because when the conditioning takes hold, he won't know you. He won't know anything. He'll follow only one voice. Ray whispered, "Hales." Elliot nodded. A sudden metallic thud slammed against the door. Then another. Ray stepped back, startled. Lena raised her weapon. "What was that?" Another thud. Louder now. The door vibrated. Elliot gasped. He's panicking. The shift is starting. Ray stepped forward again. "David, talk to me." But this time, David didn't whisper Ray's name. He whispered something else, something colder, something hollow, something programmed. "Orders received." Ray's stomach dropped. Lena grabbed his arm. "Ray, we have to move now." But Ray didn't. He stayed, because David's voice changed again, deeper, strained, like another personality wrestling for dominance. "Ray, run." Ray felt tears burn behind his eyes, something he hadn't felt in years. "David," Ray whispered, voice cracking, "I'm not leaving you again." The vault door shook violently. Elliot backed against the wall. "He's trying to break through," Lena whispered urgently. "Ray, if he gets out like this, he won't be the man you knew. He'll be Hale's creation." Ray stared at the metal, breathing hard. David slammed the door again. A raw, tortured scream followed, not human, not animal. Something caught between memory and madness. Ray whispered, "David, I know you're still in there. Hold on. I'm coming for you." Silence, then a whisper, barely audible. "Ray." Ray closed his eyes, overwhelmed. "I'm here," another whisper. "Not your fault." Ray inhaled sharply, pain flooding him. "Not your fault, Ray. I remember." Ray stepped closer. "What do you remember?" David whispered one sentence that made Ray's skin crawl. "The one who betrayed us wasn't me." Ray froze. His entire body went cold. Lena whispered, "Ray, what did he say?" Ray couldn't speak. His mouth had gone dry. David's voice strained as if each word cost him blood. "The traitor, Ray, was someone you trusted." Ray's vision blurred. Lena's jaw clenched. "Who? Who did Ray trust?" Silence. Then a single name slipped through the steel. A name blurred by static, by pain, by conditioning. A name Ray couldn't decipher. A. Ray's heart twisted. L. Who? Lena, Lucas, Liam, who? David cried out again, a horrible cry that echoed through the tunnels, the kind that marked a mind collapsing under invisible chains. Lena grabbed Ray forcibly. "Ray, he's seizing. We have to go now." Ray resisted. "No, he's trying to tell me," Elliot screamed. "He's shifting fully. Run!" A metallic bang louder than before shook the chamber. Then another. The hinges groaned. David was trying to break out. Lena dragged Ray back. "If he gets out while conditioned, he'll kill anything he sees," Ray shouted. "Let me talk to him." Lena shook her head, eyes hardened by fear. "Ray, he won't hear you. He won't hear anyone." David banged against the door again, harder. His voice roared behind the metal, a mixture of pain, rage, and loss. "Ray!" Ray felt his heart crack in half. Lena pulled him with both arms, voice trembling. "Ray, please. We can't lose you too." Ray stared at the steel, at the man trapped behind it, at the past that had reshaped his entire soul. He whispered, "I'll come back for you, David. I swear it." David's breathing intensified. Words spilled out, broken, desperate. Ray, don't leave me. Don't." The last slam against the door was so violent the lights flickered. Lena yanked Ray down the corridor. "Move!" Ray stumbled but followed, because staying meant dying. Behind them, David's voice cracked the silence again. Not a scream, not a threat, a single word whispered with agony. "Brother." Ray's breath died in his chest. Lena pulled him harder. "Ray!" Elliot ran ahead, panicking. "Guards will come, We have seconds! Ray wiped his face quickly and forced himself forward, tearing away from the one sound he never wanted to walk away from again. David's broken whisper. The tunnels trembled as they escaped. Ray looked back once. The vault door vibrated violently, and for a moment, in the flickering emergency light, Ray thought he saw a shadow behind the metal. A tall figure, hunched, trembling, weeping, reaching for him. Ray forced himself to move. They ran through the tunnels, and as they turned the corner, the vault door fell silent. Completely silent, as if David had collapsed, or as if something inside him had shut down. Lena whispered, breathless, "Ray, I'm sorry." Ray didn't answer, because all he could hear was David's voice. "The brother." Shadows beneath the flood tunnels. By the time they stopped running, Ray's lungs burned and his legs felt like they were made of iron. The sound of their footsteps still echoed behind them, bouncing back from the tunnel walls like ghosts chasing their heels. The vault chamber was far enough now that the violent banging had faded into silence, but the memory of David's voice hadn't. "Brother." Ray leaned against the cold concrete, trying to steady his breathing. The air down here tasted metallic and stale, like old blood and forgotten secrets. Lena rested her hands on her knees, forcing air into her lungs. Elliot slumped against the opposite wall, shaking uncontrollably. For a long while, no one spoke. Finally, Lena broke the silence, voice unsteady. "We can't go back there, not like this, not with him in that state." Ray stared at the tunnel floor, jaw clenched. "He's not a monster, Lena. He's a prisoner." "I know," she whispered. "That's what makes this worse." Elliot dragged a hand over his face. You don't understand what he's capable of when Hale triggers him. I've seen it. I've seen what the Watcher does when they let him out." Ray's eyes lifted slowly. "Tell me." Elliot swallowed hard, eyes darkening with memories. "They give him a target, just a name, sometimes a face on a screen. Then they open the door, and that's it. He moves like a shadow. No cameras catch him, no one hears him. He leaves almost nothing behind. Just that symbol." "The circle?" Ray asked quietly. Elliot nodded. "Whenever someone dies off the record, that mark shows up somewhere nearby, on dirt, on glass, on concrete. Somewhere the body will never see, but the message will." Ray's voice was low. "A signature in a true crime nightmare." "Yes," Elliot whispered. "A message that says I was here, you just won't prove it." Lena shook her head. "Hale keeps him caged, then unleashes him like a trained animal." Elliot's voice cracked. "Not an animal, a weapon, precise, surgical, controlled." Ray looked away, jaw tightening. "And broken." Silence settled again. Far in the distance, the faint rumble of some machinery hummed through the underground grid. Flood pumps, generators, ventilation, the unseen machinery that kept the estate running while someone like Hale pretended everything above was clean. Ray pushed off the wall. "We're not done down here," Lena frowned. "Ray, we can't storm the vault. We don't have codes, we don't have explosives, we don't even know how long until Hale sends his guards down here." "I know," Ray said, "but Hale built more than one chamber." Elliot nodded weakly. "He's right. The vault is just one part. These flood tunnels connect to multiple holding areas, transfer rooms, storage sections. I handled some of the movement between them." Ray stepped closer to him. "Then you're going to show us every hidden room, every route, every place Daniel could be." Elliot hesitated, fear flashing in his eyes again. "If Hale finds out I helped," Ray cut him off. "He'll kill you. That's already true. The only difference is whether you die running or fighting." Lena added quietly, "Helping us is the only chance you have of walking out of this alive." Elliot closed his eyes, defeated. Fine. There's another chamber, smaller, used for temporary holding, and an operations room where they track movements through the tunnel network. Ray nodded. We go there next. They moved deeper into the tunnels. The air grew thicker, heavy with moisture and the faint smell of mildew. This wasn't a simple basement. It was part of an enormous underground web. The kind you'd expect in a dark crime thriller where cities are built on top of secrets no one wants to acknowledge. Ray passed faded markers on the wall. Numbers and letters, some in faded paint, others scratched in by hand. A37, B12, C09, like coordinates for a game only monsters understood. Those are route codes, Elliot explained quietly. Each segment connects to flood drains, maintenance shafts, and transit ducts. Some exit into the city, some loop back into Hale's other properties. Ray muttered, like a private subway for crimes. Exactly, Elliot said. They came to another junction. Elliot turned right without hesitation. This way. The holding chamber isn't far. After a few more turns, the tunnel widened and dipped downward slightly. The temperature dropped another few degrees. Lena lifted her flashlight, sweeping it across the walls. Ray saw something that made him stop. Carved into the concrete, half hidden under grime, was the symbol again. The circle with the line through it. But this one looked older, deeper, repeated, multiple times. Lena ran her fingertips over it. He's been down here a long time, Ray swallowed. Or he's been everywhere down here. They moved on until the tunnel opened into a smaller chamber with a low ceiling and rusted bars dividing space into cramped cells. Some were empty. Some held old, restraints bolted into the walls. One still had a discarded chain attached to a ring in the floor. Lena's face hardened. Hale's temporary storage. People, Elliot whispered. Before they're moved, before they disappear. Ray stepped into the chamber, scanning every corner. Daniel, he called quietly. No answer. Just the drip of water and the distant thrum of machines. Lena shone her light along the floor. Blood here, not fresh, but not old either. Ray knelt, touching a dark stain. Daniel? Could be, Elliot murmured. Could be any number of people. Ray's gaze landed on the far wall. Something was scrawled there in black marker, jagged and uneven, as if written by someone whose hands were shaking. Lena moved closer, reading aloud. Not dead. Not yet. Ray stepped closer. Below that. Look. Beneath the first words, smaller letters were cramped into the narrow space near the floor. Lena squinted. Follow the water, he can't see there. Elliot swallowed. What does that mean? Ray lifted his chin slowly, listening. Now that he focused, he could hear it. A different sound beneath the mechanical hum. Rushing water. Low, steady, hidden. He turned his head toward the far side of the chamber where a grated opening sat half covered in slime and mineral buildup. The water rushed behind it, fast and controlled. Ray moved toward it. Flood channel. Lena frowned. You think Daniel wrote that? Ray nodded. He was an engineer. He'd understand how to use water flow to mask movement. If the watcher senses footsteps or vibrations, the roar of a high-pressure channel could distort the signal. Elliot wiped his mouth. I never came this far down. Only guards did. Sometimes I'd hear them talking. They said there was a bypass route through the older flood pipes. One Hale doesn't use anymore. Ray gripped the grate with both hands, which means it's exactly where Daniel would go if he escaped his cell. Lena scanned the walls again. There's more. On the side panel, almost hidden behind a pipe, another message was scraped into the metal with something sharp. Ray, the tunnels are copies. Think mirror, not maze. Ray's heart skipped. Lena read it twice, then turned to him. He left that for you. Elliot frowned, confused. Mirror? Ray's mind raced. Hale built twin systems, one overseas, one here, same layout, same patterns. If Daniel realized that, he could map this place using our old mission routes. That's insane, Lena whispered. But clever. Ray nodded slowly. Daniel always did think in angles no one else saw. He opened his palm, remembering the old tunnel sketches Daniel kept in his field journal, the ones they'd used to navigate underground without GPS, paths, junctions, dead ends, escape routes, and one section they never reached because the mission went to hell, the extraction chamber. Now Ray understood. Hale hadn't just imported weapons technology, he imported infrastructure, familiar patterns for his controlled ghost. Lena whispered, if that's true, then somewhere in this flood system is the equivalent of that extraction chamber. And if Daniel found it, Ray said quietly, he'd leave a trail. Elliot stared at the grate. That pipe leads to the old city drains, and beyond that, to the larger flood tunnels outside the estate. Ray tugged at the rusted gate. It resisted at first, then gave way with a shriek of metal as the hinges cracked. Cold air rushed out, carrying the sharp smell of moving water and algae. Lena wrinkled her nose. That's going to be loud. Good, Ray said. Let him hear something he can't follow. Elliot shook his head. You're going in there? You don't even know where it leads. Ray looked back at the writing on the wall. Not dead. Not yet. He turned back to the open gap. That's enough for me. He crouched and slipped into the narrow space, cold water splashing his boots. Lena followed without hesitation. Elliot stood at the entrance, paralyzed. Lena looked back. You coming? Elliot hugged himself. If Hale finds out... Lena's voice turned flat. If Hale finds you anywhere in these tunnels, you're dead. At least with us, you have a chance. Elliot hesitated one heart-stopping second, then dropped to his knees and crawled through after them. The flood channel was narrow at first, forcing them to move hunched over, shoulders brushing wet concrete. The roar of water grew louder, filling their ears, their bones, masking every other sound. Ray led the way along a slippery ledge beside the main current. Occasionally, his foot sank into cold water, sending icy shocks up his leg. The darkness ahead seemed to stretch forever. This feels like the old tunnels, Ray muttered. Lena's voice echoed behind him. Afghanistan? Yeah, he said. Same echo, same smell, same bad feeling. They continued for several minutes until the path widened slightly and a small alcove appeared to the right, carved into the wall. A crude lantern sat there, long burned out. Next to it, scratched into the stone, was another mark. Not the circle this time, just 2 letters. Dr. Lena touched it softly. Daniel Reeves. Ray exhaled slowly. Relief and dread mixed in his chest. He was here. And then he noticed something else tucked into a crack in the wall, a fragment of laminated paper folded tight. He pried it out carefully and unfolded it. A hand-drawn map. 2 tunnel systems mirrored side by side, one labeled Field Zone, the other City Grid, lines connecting junctions, circles marking key points, an X over one particular junction on the city side. Lena leaned over his shoulder. What's that? Ray's eyes moved over the shapes, tracing memory with ink. That, he said quietly, is the place we were supposed to reach the night the tunnel collapsed. Lena's breath slowed. The extraction chamber. Ray nodded. And Daniel thinks the copy of that chamber is somewhere ahead of us, he added. In this flood system, and that's where he wants me to go. Elliot swallowed. What do you think is there? Ray folded the map. The thing Hale buried twice. He looked into the darkness ahead. And the truth he's willing to kill everyone to hide. And the deeper they traveled into the flood channel, the louder the water became. It roared like a living creature, angry, restless, powerful. Ray's boots splashed through inches of cold runoff as the narrow ledge beneath him curved around another bend. Every sound was absorbed by the deafening rush, turning the world around them into vibrating darkness. Lena followed close behind, flashlight gripped tightly, though the beam barely cut through the thick humidity. Elliot trailed last, trembling, glancing back over his shoulder every few seconds as if expecting something to crawl out of the shadows. Ray kept moving, though the image of David hunched behind that vault door replayed again and again in his mind. His voice, his scream. That one broken word that had ripped through Ray's chest. "Brother." Ray's throat tightened. Lena noticed the tension in his shoulder. "Ray, you okay?" "No," he answered honestly, "but I will be when we find Daniel." Lena didn't argue. She understood too well that Ray was now driven by something deeper than duty. Something personal, painful, and unstoppable. They reached a section where the ledge thinned into barely a foot of width, forcing them to walk sideways against the wall. Elliot froze. I can't cross that." Lena turned back. "Yes, you can. Look at it," he panicked. "One slip and—" Ray cut in coldly. "One slip behind us and David breaks through that vault. Keep moving." Elliot's eyes widened. He swallowed hard and forced himself onto the narrow path, gripping the wall with both shaking hands. Step by step, they edged across until the ledge widened again. Ray checked his map under the dim flashlight. "We're close. The mirrored chamber should be 200 meters ahead." Lena exhaled. "So somewhere down here is the city twin of the extraction room where everything started." Ray nodded. "And Daniel left a trail for us to find it." Elliot leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "I still don't get why Hale would bother recreating tunnels in two countries." Ray stared into the distance, listening to the water. "Because he wanted a ghost he could control anywhere in the world," Ray said quietly. "A ghost who wouldn't get lost. A ghost who would recognize the layout instinctively." Lena nodded, slowly. "A weapon who knows the maze no matter which country he's in." Ray felt bile rise in his throat. "A weapon built from a soldier who trusted him." Elliot looked sick. Ray turned and continued walking. Minutes later, the flood tunnel split into two branching pipes, one wide enough to walk through, the other barely big enough to crawl. Daniel's map marked the smaller one. Ray lowered himself onto his knees. "We go through the crawl pipe." Elliot stared in horror. "You're joking." "No," Ray said. "That's not a pipe, that's a coffin," Elliot shouted over the roaring water. Ray's tone remained calm but sharp. "You want to survive, or do you want to stay here and wait for Hale's men?" Elliot went silent. Then Lena crawled in first. "Let's go." Ray followed, then Elliot. Inside, the pipe was slick, cramped, and freezing. Metal scraped Ray's back as he crawled, and every movement echoed like thunder. Water dripped from above, splattering the back of his neck. Elliot whimpered behind him. "Why would Daniel come through here?" Ray answered without turning. He didn't want anyone following him. After several agonizing minutes, they emerged into a larger concrete tunnel with flickering maintenance lights. The sudden brightness made Ray squint. "Where are we now?" Lena asked, scanning the tunnel. Ray checked the map again. The intersection point. According to Daniel's markings, the extraction chamber copy should be ahead. Elliot wiped sweat from his forehead. "So, what exactly is this chamber? Why is it so important?" Ray and Lena exchanged a glance. Then Ray said slowly, "Because the night our mission collapsed overseas, that chamber was where they took someone alive." Elliot nodded shakily. "David?" Ray didn't respond. They walked in silence until the tunnel opened into an enormous underground room. Ray stopped dead. Lena whispered, "Oh my God." Elliot covered his mouth. The chamber was massive, a perfect concrete dome with metal scaffolding, old flood machinery, rusted valves, and a grated floor covering a deep pit. Red emergency lights bathed everything in eerie shadows. The air was colder here, the kind of cold that felt almost deliberate. But that wasn't what made Ray's breath catch. It was the symbols. Hundreds of them. The Watcher's symbol, the circle with the line, carved into almost every surface, deep, violent, layered. Lena's voice trembled. He made these... Ray exhaled slowly. This must have been where they kept him, where they conditioned him. Elliot shivered violently. This is, where they broke him. Ray stepped toward the center of the chamber. Rusted chains dangled from a metal fixture above the pit, swaying slightly as if someone had been suspended there recently. Ray touched one of the chains gently. The cold metal sent a chill through his arm. Lena whispered, "Ray, look." At the far wall, something glinted under the dim light. A small metallic object wedged into a pipe joint. Ray approached and pulled it free. A dog tag. Dirty, scratched. He wiped it clean with his thumb. David Reeves. A Pazas Army Ray's breath cracked. Lena's face softened. "He was here," Ray whispered. "He left this." "Why?" she asked softly. "To warn me," Ray said, "to guide me. To tell me he's still fighting." Elliot pointed shakily to the grate covering the pit. "Does that lead somewhere?" Ray knelt and shined his flashlight through the grate. Darkness, a drop. Then, a faint flicker of movement. Not water, not air, something else. Lena felt the shift, too. "Ray, someone's down there." Ray leaned closer, hearing something under the clanging machinery. A sound, a cough, a human cough. Ray's heart slammed. "Daniel," he whispered. Lena crouched beside him. "We have to open it." Elliot shook his head frantically. "If guards come..." Ray grabbed the metal grate and pulled. It didn't budge. Lena searched the wall. "There must be a release switch." Elliot pointed to a control box across the room. "There. But if you activate it, the entire flood valve system wakes up." "That's a risk we take," Ray said sharply. He sprinted to the control panel, Lena close behind. She asked, "What's the plan?" Ray hovered his hand over the switch. "We open the grate, pull Daniel up." "And then what?" Elliot cried. "Hail will flood the tunnels. The Watcher will wake. You'll trigger the alarms." Ray stared at the switch, jaw clenched. "Daniel is alive. I'm not leaving him." Lena nodded. "Then we do this fast." Ray grabbed the switch. "Ready?" he asked. Lena aimed her weapon toward the tunnel entrance. "Do it!" Ray pulled the lever. The chamber rumbled violently. Lights flickered. The grate screeched and began to rise. Elliot backed against the wall, terrified. "Oh God, you've activated everything." Water roared somewhere in the depths. Machinery groaned awake after years of stillness. The grate slid aside fully. Ray dropped to his stomach and shined the flashlight inside. "Daniel!" he yelled over the roar. A faint voice answered. "Ray!" Ray's chest collapsed with relief. "Daniel, I'm here!" Lena grabbed a rope from the wall and threw it down. "Grab it!" Another cough echoed up. "Ray, water's rising." Ray's pulse spiked. "Daniel, hold on!" Elliot screamed from behind. "Flood valves, they're opening!" Ray looked back in horror. A massive pipe overhead cracked. Cold water exploded into the chamber like a waterfall. Lena shouted, "Ray, we have to move!" Ray ignored it. He leaned farther over the pit. "Daniel, reach for the rope!" Another cough. Another weak voice. "Ray, hurry!" More water burst through another pipe. The floor began to flood fast. Lena screamed, "Ray, guards will hear this. The Watcher will hear this." Ray reached down as far as his arm allowed. "Daniel, grab my hand!" A shadow moved deep below. A hand reached up. weak, shaking, alive. Ray grabbed it. Their fingers locked. Ray shouted, "I've got you!" Lena planted her feet and grabbed Ray's belt, anchoring him. Elliot panicked. "Someone's coming. I hear boots." Ray pulled with everything inside him. Daniel emerged into the light, bruised, soaked, coughing, barely conscious. Ray hauled him out of the pit and collapsed backwards with him. Daniel whispered, voice cracking, "You came." Ray held him tightly. "I told you I would." But then, a scream tore through the tunnels. Not Daniel's, not Elliot's. A scream of rage, pain, something human, something broken. The Watcher. The sound echoed through the chamber, vibrating in Ray's bones. Lena's face drained of color. "Ray, he's awake," Elliot sobbed. "We triggered him. We triggered him." Ray stood slowly, pulling Daniel to his feet. "Then we run," Ray said, "because he's coming. And he knows exactly where we are." The scream tore through the tunnels again, a shattering, bone-deep sound that didn't belong to any human Ray had ever known. It echoed along the concrete walls, vibrating through the steel pipes and the rushing water like a warning shot fired straight into their souls. Daniel flinched violently, clutching Ray's shoulder as though the sound itself hurt him. His breath came in ragged bursts, his body weak and shaking. Lena grabbed her gun, eyes darting toward the darkness beyond the chamber. "Ray, that wasn't rage." Ray nodded, jaw tightening. "I know. It wasn't rage, it wasn't pain. It was awakening." Elliot backed into the wall, sliding down until he was practically sitting on the wet concrete. "We shouldn't have opened the valves. Oh, God, we shouldn't have." "Get up!" Ray's voice cut sharp. Elliot didn't move. He hugged his knees instead, rocking. "He's coming for us. He always comes when the alarms trigger." Ray marched over, grabbed Elliot by the collar, and yanked him upright. "Listen to me," Ray growled. "If you fall apart now, you'll die. Stand up." Elliot's breath hitched. I can't." Ray didn't wait for the rest. He slapped the man once, firm, not cruel, just enough to break through the panic. Elliot gasped. Ray leaned in. "You survived Hale's world this long. You can survive a few more minutes. Move or die. Choose." Elliot nodded shakily. Okay. Lena stepped beside Ray. "The water's rising. We need to get out of this chamber now." Ray looked around the room. Floodwater crawled across the floor, swirling around their ankles. The ventilation system groaned with strain. Alarms buzzed faintly overhead. Daniel coughed again, struggling to stand on his own. Ray slipped under his arm, supporting his weight. Daniel's voice came out like sandpaper scraping metal. "Ray, you shouldn't have come." "I'm not leaving you," Ray said. "You don't understand." Daniel tried to pull away, but didn't have the strength. "He's not what you remember." "We'll deal with that later," Ray said. "Right now we move." But Daniel suddenly gripped Ray's forearm with surprising force. His eyes widened with fear. "No, Ray, you don't understand. He won't stop. Not until—" A metallic clang echoed from somewhere behind the chamber. Then another, closer. He was coming. Lena hissed, "Ray, we need to go." Ray nodded. "Which direction?" Lena pointed to the far corridor. "Daniel's map shows an old maintenance duct past that wall. If we reach it, we can circle behind the estate," Daniel muttered. "Won't work. Hale sealed the vent systems. Only one way out now." Ray steadied him. "Which way?" Daniel pointed a trembling finger toward the far side of the chamber. A narrow hatch partially submerged under the rising water. "There," he whispered. Lena's eyes widened. "That leads to the old storm overflow." "Good," Ray said. "We go through there." Elliot's voice cracked. "But that tunnel is unstable. They abandoned it for a reason." Ray met his eyes. "Everything down here is unstable. Move. Lena already waded toward the hatch, kicking debris aside. Ray half-carried Daniel toward her while Elliot followed reluctantly. But as Ray neared the hatch, a loud metallic groan echoed behind them again. Then, a voice. Soft, hoarse, not yelled, not screamed. A whisper carried through the chamber on the shifting air. "Ray!" Ray's blood froze. Lena's head snapped around. Elliot whimpered and pressed himself into the wall. Daniel covered his ears, whispering, "Don't answer him. Don't answer." Ray didn't listen. He turned slightly, heart hammering. From the dark corridor leading back toward the vault, a shadow emerged, slow, silent, deliberate. At first it was just a silhouette, tall, thin, posture too still to be natural. Then the flickering emergency lights caught a glimpse of a hood, wet fabric clinging to a gaunt face, eyes hidden behind shadow. The Watcher, David, alive, awake, terrifying. Lena whispered, "Ray, don't move." But Ray couldn't. Something inside him locked. The Watcher took a small step forward, then another. Not fast, not threatening, almost curious. His head tilted slightly, the same motion Ray had seen in the hallway days ago. A motion Ray once saw David do when trying to understand something complicated. "David," Ray whispered. The Watcher froze. Then slowly, Town lifted his head. The hood fell back slightly, revealing part of his face, pale, scarred, partially bruised. Eyes hollow and yet focused, flickering with something trapped and desperate. Recognition. "Ray," he whispered again. Ray felt his heart fracture. "David, I'm here." Lena gripped Ray's arm. "Don't get closer." The Watcher took another step. His movements were off, careful but glitching like two instincts warred inside him. His fingers curled, then relaxed, then curled again. Elliot whimpered. "He's going to shift. He's going to shift." Ray put himself between the Watcher and the others. "David, it's me. Look at me." The Watcher's breathing grew shallow. His gaze locked onto Ray's face as if trying to remember something important. Then he whispered something that made Ray's knees weaken. "You left me." Ray shook his head quickly. "No, I didn't. That's not what happened. That's what they made you believe." The Watcher flinched violently, like the truth caused pain. He grabbed the sides of his head, fingers digging into his skull. "No, no," he said. "You left me. You ran." Ray took a slow step forward. "David, listen. Hale lied to you." The Watcher tensed, every muscle in his body freezing at the name. Something dark flickered in his eyes. "Hale," he growled softly, voice layered with pain and hatred. "Yes," Ray said gently. "Hale betrayed you, not me." The Watcher's breathing quickened. He rocked on his feet. Then his eyes snapped sharply in Ray's direction. "Show me." Ray's voice softened. "Show you what, David?" The Watcher pointed a trembling hand toward Ray's chest. "Show me the truth." Ray stepped forward slowly. "I will, but you have to come with me." Suddenly, a distant alarm blared, sharp and piercing. The Watcher jerked as if hit by electricity. His expression shifted, his posture stiffened, his breathing changed, becoming robotic, shallow, controlled. Lena whispered in horror, "Ray, he's going into full conditioning." "No, David, listen to me." Ray stepped forward. "Fight it, fight Hale's voice." The Watcher's head twitched violently. His eyes changed completely, cold, empty, obedient. He whispered something barely audible. "Orders received." Lena's face drained of color. "Ray, move!" Ray barely turned before the Watcher blurred forward. Fast, inhumanly fast. Ray ducked instinctively as the Watcher's hand sliced through the air where Ray's head had been. The force cracked the metal pipe behind him. Lena fired a warning shot. The Watcher didn't flinch. Elliot screamed and dove behind a pillar. Ray raised his hands. "David! David, stop!" But the Watcher wasn't listening anymore. He was something else now. A weapon, a ghost, a hunter. He lunged at Ray again. Movements, precise and deadly. Ray dodged barely in time, grabbing a metal bar from the ground to block a punch that would have shattered his jaw. The clash echoed through the chamber. Daniel cried out weakly from behind Lena. "Ray, don't hurt him!" Ray gritted his teeth. "I'm not trying to." The Watcher swung again. Ray blocked, but the strength behind the blow nearly tore the bar from his hands. "David!" Ray yelled. "Please, listen to me!" The Watcher didn't stop. He moved like muscle memory sculpted by violence, like someone trained in the dark until he forgot what light felt like. Ray dodged again, breath ragged. Lena shouted, "We have to go, now!" But Ray looked right at the broken man attacking him. "No," he said, "I'm not leaving him again." The Watcher lunged once more. Ray dropped the bar. And instead of fighting, Ray stepped into the attack. He grabbed David's arms and pulled him into a hold. Not violent, but desperate, like someone embracing a drowning friend. "David," Ray whispered through gritted teeth, "I'm not your enemy." The Watcher trembled violently, fighting to tear free. Ray held tighter. "You're not a weapon. You're my brother." For a split second, a flicker, a hesitation, a subtle, fragile recognition. "Ray." The Watcher's muscles faltered. His grip loosened. His breathing slowed. But then, the chamber door behind them burst open. Armed guards, shouting. Boots slamming metal. "Hale's men!" Lena yelled. The Watcher jerked at the sound. His conditioning snapped back like a whip. He shoved Ray away with monstrous strength. Ray hit the ground hard. Lena grabbed Daniel. "Ray, we have to go!" The Watcher stepped toward Ray again, eyes shifting between killing intent and buried memory. A war inside him, a war Hale created. Ray whispered, voice cracking, "David, please." But the guards stormed into the chamber. "Seize them!" Bullets ricocheted, water surged, lights flickered violently. The Watcher's head snapped toward the guards. A low growl escaped his throat. Then, he disappeared into the darkness like smoke. Lena dragged Daniel toward the hatch. "Ray, move!" Ray forced himself up and sprinted after them. Behind him, gunfire exploded. Ahead of him, the hatch gaped open like a promise. And somewhere in the darkness, the Watcher lingered, watching him leave. Again. The auction of secrets and the bargain for blood. Ray slammed the hatch shut behind him as bullets hammered the metal from the other side. The echo rang through the cramped storm tunnel like thunder. Daniel sagged against him, barely conscious. Lena locked beside him with her gun raised, and Elliot stumbled through the narrow space, sobbing incoherently. Water flowed faster here, ankle-deep and rushing like a trapped river trying to escape. The faint blue emergency lights flickered overhead, illuminating the tight tunnel like a haunted corridor beneath the earth. Ray dragged Daniel forward. "Move!" Daniel coughed hard, clutching his ribs. "Ray, you shouldn't have come." "I'm not having this argument," Ray said sharply. "We're getting you out." "Ray," Daniel whispered, voice cracking. "David." Ray flinched at the name. "I know." Lena grabbed Ray's arm. "We can't stay here. These tunnels loop back. Guards will flood them or block exits." Ray nodded. "Which direction leads to the estate perimeter?" Elliot wiped his eyes with shaking hands. "This way. Right. No. Left. No." Ray grabbed Elliot by the shirt and slammed him lightly against the wall. "Focus," Elliot gasped. I don't know. I'm trying. Think," Ray roared. Lena stepped between them. "Ray, you're scaring him." "Good," Ray snapped. "Fear keeps him alive." But Lena pressed a hand to Ray's chest. "Not this fear." Her eyes softened the blow. Ray exhaled slowly, releasing Elliot. Elliot sucked in shaky breaths. The right tunnel curves toward the maintenance ducts. Guards won't know those routes, they only use the main access routes. Then right it is, Ray said. They moved quickly, wading through rushing water as the sound of boots and shouting echoed faintly behind them. The guards were spreading out, organizing, searching. Daniel whispered, "Ray, you need to know something." "Save it," Ray muttered, "until you can breathe properly." "No," Daniel insisted weakly. "You need to know now." Ray glanced back. "Daniel!" But Daniel forced the words out, voice trembling with urgency. "There's someone else in Hale's network." Ray slowed slightly. "Who?" Daniel grabbed Ray's sleeve with trembling fingers. "Someone Hale trusts. Someone he listens to." Ray frowned. "What are you saying?" Daniel coughed again, harder this time. "The person who betrayed us that night. It wasn't David." Ray went still. Lena looked at Daniel sharply. "Daniel, who betrayed your unit?" Daniel's voice dropped, barely audible. "Someone who survived. Someone still out there." Ray's pulse hammered. "Daniel, who?" But Daniel shook his head, eyes glazing. I don't know the name. He had a mask. Ray cursed under his breath. "Stay with me, Daniel." Daniel nodded weakly. "I'm trying." Suddenly, the water level dropped sharply. Ray blinked. "What the?" Elliot paled. "They're redirecting the flood flow," Lena swore. "To push us toward an exit they want. They're hurting us." Ray tightened his grip on Daniel. "Then we don't follow the water." He turned sharply into a smaller side tunnel, darker, narrower, unmarked. Elliot shrieked. "That path doesn't lead anywhere." Ray didn't look back. "Good. Hale won't expect us to take it." "Ray," Lena started, but Ray cut her off. "Trust me." They followed him into the off-route tunnel. The ceiling lowered, forcing them to crouch. The roar of redirected water rumbled behind them like a monster chasing prey. Daniel groaned softly. Ray held him tighter. "We're almost out." But the sound coming from ahead made Ray's skin crawl. Whispers, dozens of them, soft, layered, not coming from one person, but from speakers hidden along the walls. Lena aimed her flashlight down the tunnel. "What is that?" Elliot whispered, horror dawning. "That's Hale. He uses the speaker grid to confuse people down here, to break their sense of direction." The whispers grew louder. "Ray Mercer, you're trespassing. You can't save them. You left him once. You'll leave him again." Ray clenched his teeth. "Ignore it." Lena's face twisted. "He's trying to trigger you." Daniel whispered weakly. "Ray, don't listen." Elliot covered his ears. "Make it stop. Please make it stop." Ray grabbed the speaker wire running along the wall and ripped it out. Sparks snapped across his knuckles. The whispering stopped abruptly. Lena whispered, "Good." But the silence that followed was worse, because in its place, footsteps approached, not chaotic, not rushed, slow, measured. Ray knew the pattern instantly. Lena whispered fearfully, "Is that?" Ray nodded once. "The Watcher." Daniel clutched Ray's sleeve. No. Ray, when he's in conditioning, he won't recognize you." Ray steadied him. "Then we don't let him see us." Elliot pleaded, "Then run!" Ray didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed Daniel. Lena covered the rear with her weapon, and they sprinted through the cramped tunnel. But the footsteps quickened, not running, just walking faster, efficient, hunting. The water ahead became deeper, slowing their movement. Daniel slipped once. Ray caught him. Lena fired once behind them. The bullet pinged off a pipe, echoing through the darkness. Elliot screamed, "He's close! He's right there!" Ray turned back and froze. The Watcher stood at the mouth of the tunnel, still, silent, Head lowered, water cascading past his boots. His breathing was steady, controlled, deadly. He whispered one word. "Ray." Lena grabbed Ray's collar. "Don't stop!" They moved again, splashing through the rising water, lungs burning. Suddenly, a faint glimmer appeared ahead. Light. Faint, pale, flickering. Ray squinted. "An exit?" Elliot gasped. No, that's not an exit. That's..." Before he could finish, they burst into a cavern-like storm basin, a massive underground reservoir with towering concrete walls and a ceiling so high it vanished into darkness. And across the basin, beyond the rushing water, a door, a steel maintenance hatch, and beside it, a keypad. Lena cursed. "It's locked!" Elliot shrieked. We're dead! He'll kill us!" Ray shoved Daniel into Lena's arms and stormed across the floor toward the keypad. "Elliot, give me the code." I don't know it." Ray slammed him against the wall. "Yes, you do," Elliot sobbed. I know some routes, but not this one, I swear." The footsteps entered the basin behind them. Slow, inevitable. Lena raised her gun. "Ray, he's here." Ray looked over his shoulder. The watcher stood at the tunnel mouth. The dim emergency lights cast long shadows over his face, making him look half human, half something else entirely. He wasn't even breathing hard. Daniel whispered, terrified. "Ray, please, don't let him." The watcher raised his head slowly. His eyes locked onto Ray. Recognition flickered again. "Ray," he whispered softly. For a moment, a fraction of a moment, he looked like David again. Lena lowered her gun slightly. "Wait, Ray, he's..." But then, a loud electronic buzz echoed through the chamber. A voice boomed overhead, cold, calm, surgical. Victor Hale. "Well done, Mercer," Hale said. "You led him right where I needed him." Ray's stomach sank. "What?" Hale continued. "That chamber required a trigger. Only your voice could bring him out." Ray froze. Lena whispered, horrified. "Ray, he set you up." Hale chuckled. "Now step back. The ghost is coming home." Ray snapped his head toward the watcher. The shift was instant. David's gaze went blank. His posture stiffened, his jaw clenched. Conditioning. Lena whispered, "Ray, run!" Ray shook his head. "No!" "Ray!" she cried, but Ray stepped forward, toward the watcher, toward David. He whispered, voice trembling, "David, look at me." The watcher's head twitched, but he kept walking. Steady, deadly. Hale's voice echoed, "Finish it." The watcher lunged. Ray didn't move, because at that exact moment, Daniel screamed, "David, stop!" The watcher froze, jerked, twitched violently. Daniel coughed blood, but screamed again. "David, it's me! It's Daniel!" The watcher staggered. His eyes widened. Something broke through, something cracked the programming. He whispered, "Daniel?" Ray caught the opening. He stepped into the space between them and grabbed David's wrist. "David," Ray whispered, "look at us." Lena held her breath. The guards stormed into the chamber. Hale shouted through the speakers. The alarms wailed. But Ray didn't hear any of it. He only heard the voice of the man in front of him, fractured, trembling, fighting the chains in his head. "Ray?" And for the first time since the tunnels overseas, David Reeves blinked like a man waking from a nightmare. The auction of secrets and the bargain for blood time stopped. For a moment, the roaring water, the sirens, Hale's voice booming through the tunnels, all of it vanished beneath the weight of that one look on David's face. Recognition, weak at first, flickering, haunted, but real. Ray stepped closer, slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal afraid of its own shadow. "It's me," Ray whispered. "It's Ray, your brother. I'm right here." David's chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven breaths. His eyes, those hollow, tortured eyes, flicked back and forth between Ray and Daniel, confusion crashing through whatever programming Hale had forced upon him. Daniel coughed blood, barely able to stand, but he pushed himself forward anyway, leaning heavily on Lena. "David, look at me. Please." David's lips parted, his voice emerged like a broken thread of sound. "Daniel." Daniel's knees buckled and he cried out, not from pain, but from hope so sharp it hurt. Yes, it's me. You're not alone. You're not." But then, Hale's voice crackled through the speakers again, low and venomous. "David." David jerked violently as if electrocuted. Ray's heart dropped. Lena gasped. "No, no, no!" Hale's tone sharpened. "Stand down!" David's entire body convulsed. He clutched his skull, groaning as if something inside was tearing apart. Ray grabbed his shoulders. "David, look at me, not him!" David trembled, teeth clenched, eyes darting wildly. Hale continued, voice icy and unforgiving. "Kill them!" Daniel screamed. "David, don't listen!" The command hit David like a hammer. His legs buckled, his hands slammed against the concrete. He let out a raw, agonized cry, a sound that didn't belong to a soldier or a weapon, but to a man torn in half. Ray held him tight. "Fight it, David, fight him!" Lena aimed her gun toward the tunnel entry, keeping the guards at bay as long as she could. Elliot hid behind a fallen pipe, sobbing and shaking uncontrollably. David shook his head violently, hair plastered to his face, breath shallow and panicked. "Ray, I can't, he's in my head." Ray cupped his face firmly. "Then listen to my voice," David whimpered, eyes burning with pain. "I'm trying, Ray, I'm trying." Hale's tone sharpened with steel authority. "David!" David flinched. "Obey!" Ray grabbed David harder. "No! Look at me!" David's gaze locked with Ray's again, desperate, drowning. Ray whispered, "You're not his weapon." David trembled. "I don't want to hurt you." Ray's voice cracked. "Then don't. You choose, not him." Hale's voice rose sharply. "David Reeves, execute!" David screamed in agony, a guttural, shattered cry. Shaking violently as the programming surged through him like a storm, Lena shouted, "Ray, he's slipping!" "No!" Ray roared. He pulled David closer, forehead to forehead. "David, listen to me. You saved me once. Do you remember the night the tunnel collapsed? You pushed me ahead. You saved me." David's breath hitched. His hands lowered, trembled, hesitated. "I did." "Yes," Ray whispered fiercely. "Not Hale, not the army. You saved Daniel, too. You protected us." Daniel coughed but forced himself to speak. "David, please, don't let him own you." The Watcher's face contorted with pain as he tried to reconcile two versions of his life, one Hale built and one he had lived. Hale's voice snarled over the speakers. "David, finish them." A deep guttural growl escaped David's throat. His muscles tensed, his fists clenched. He lurched forward. Ray didn't move, not an inch. Instead, he grabbed David's hands and placed them over his own heart. "If you want to kill me," Ray whispered, "then do it looking me in the eyes." Lena gasped. "Ray, are you insane?" Daniel wheezed. "Ray, don't!" But Ray didn't break eye contact with David for even a second. "I'm not running from you," Ray whispered. "Not again. If Hale wants to destroy you through me, he'll have to watch you choose." David trembled violently, his fingers curling against Ray's chest. His lip quivered. Tears formed in his eyes. "Ray, I don't want to hurt you." "Then don't," Ray said softly. "You're stronger than Hale, stronger than his conditioning, stronger than his lies," Daniel whispered weakly from behind. "You always were." David collapsed to his knees, gripping Ray's shirt, choking back sobs that had been buried under years of pain. Ray caught him, lowering him gently to the wet concrete. Hale's voice turned furious. "David, obey me!" David cried out, clutching his head as the command ripped through him. Ray didn't let go. "David, listen to me. The real you, the you I knew, would never obey a monster." David's voice broke. "Ray, I don't know who I am." "You're my brother," Ray whispered. "You always were." David's breath shook, and for a second Ray thought he had broken through, that David had fully returned. But then, boots flooded the chamber. Hale's guards swarmed in from the tunnels, weapons raised. Lena swung her gun toward them. "Ray, get up!" Ray shielded David. "Back off!" a guard shouted. "Drop the weapon!" Lena fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Sparks rained down. Guards flinched but didn't retreat. Their leader shouted, "Drop your weapon now!" Lena hissed at Ray. "We're cornered. There's too many." Daniel tried to stand but collapsed, again coughing blood. Elliot screamed, "They're going to kill us all." Then all the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the entire basin. A collective gasp rippled through the guards. Hale's voice cut out. The alarms died. The hum of machinery stopped, and silence fell like a curtain. Ray whispered into the dark, "David." But the answer wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a voice. It was movement, razor fast, shadow silent, a blur slicing through the darkness. Guards screamed, gunshots echoed in blind panic. The sound of bodies hitting concrete rattled the chamber. Lena backed against Ray, gun raised. "Ray, what's happening?" Ray already knew. He felt it in his bones. David wasn't obeying Hale. David wasn't obeying anyone. He had slipped into the darkness, not as Hale's weapon, but as something else, something unleashed, something powerful, something free. The screams stopped as suddenly as they began. Then, silence again. Ray swallowed hard. "David," he called softly. No answer. But then, a shape stepped into the faint emergency glow returning overhead. Tall, still, drenched, eyes sharp with something new. Not Hale's conditioning, not blind obedience. Clarity. David, alive, awake, and watching. Ray stood slowly, heartbeat pounding in his ears. David stared back at him. Then, he spoke. Not a whisper, not a broken cry. Clear, strong. "If Hale wants me," David said, stepping forward with steady breaths, "he'll have to take me from you." Ray's breath stopped. Lena's eyes widened. Daniel cried silently. And for the first time since the tunnels years ago, David Reeves stood as a soldier again. Not a ghost, not a weapon, a man. For a long, breathless moment, nobody moved. The storm basin, moments ago filled with screams and chaos, had fallen into a haunting stillness. Only the distant drip of water echoed in the cavernous chamber, mingling with the fading smell of gunpowder and blood. Bodies of Hale's guards lay in broken heaps across the concrete floor, thrown, snapped, silenced, and in the center of it all, standing straight despite the tremors in his hands, David Reeves stared at Ray with a clarity Ray hadn't seen in years. Lena lowered her weapon slowly. "Ray, he's in control." Daniel, barely conscious, leaned heavily against the wall, tears streaking down the grime on his face. "David, oh God, you're really here." Elliot pressed himself into a corner, white with terror, trembling violently. He killed them all. David turned his head sharply. Elliot whimpered and went silent instantly. Not because David threatened him, but because the look in David's eyes was no longer empty, no longer programmed, no longer lost. He was present, he was awake, and he was dangerous in a way that terrified even Ray, but not because of fear. Because David had finally become the ghost Hale always tried to turn him into, but on his own terms. Ray stepped forward cautiously, hands raised. "David, Can you hear me clearly? David blinked slowly as if testing his own consciousness. The flickering emergency light reflected off the water dripping from his hair. After a long pause, he nodded once. Yes, he said quietly. Ray felt a weight lift off his chest, but only halfway. Do you know where you are? David scanned the chamber, taking in the bodies, the tunnels, the hatch, the grate, his jaw clenched. Underground, below Hale's estate, flood system, holding basin. His eyes narrowed. Same architecture as Hellman, same roots. Ray nodded. You remember that? Yes, David said, voice low and steady. I remember everything. Daniel sobbed softly, covering his mouth. David, we thought you died. David turned to his brother. His expression softened, painfully. I did die, he said, voice breaking just enough for Ray to hear the hurt inside it. At least the man you knew did. Daniel stumbled forward and grabbed David's arm. No, you're here. You're with us, that's what matters. David didn't pull away, a small miracle in itself. Ray felt his throat tighten. David, Hale can still trigger you. We need to get out before he... David cut him off, eyes darkening. He can't trigger me anymore. Lena frowned. How? We heard you. The conditioning. David touched the side of his head, fingers brushing a long scar hidden under his hair. The commands only work if I allow them through. Ray blinked. You broke your conditioning? David nodded. When Hale ordered me to kill you and I made a choice. He looked at Ray with emotion raw in his voice. My mind split in two, one part loyal to Hale, the other loyal to you. Ray swallowed hard. David. David looked down at his own trembling hands. I didn't know which part would win. You fought, Ray whispered, and you chose us. David's jaw tightened. I chose my brother. Daniel sobbed again, this time with relief. But then David tensed suddenly, eyes snapping toward the loudspeaker high on the wall. Because the speakers crackled back to life. Hale's voice poured through with a calmness that chilled the air. Well, Hale said softly, this is disappointing, David. David's face hardened. Ray stepped protectively between him and the speaker. Shut up, Hale. But Hale continued unfazed. You had one job. One. And somehow you broke again. He sighed, sounding almost pitying. I suppose the brainwashed ones never last as long as the organically obedient. David trembled, but not with fear, with rage. Lena shouted, Hale, show your face! Hale chuckled darkly. Oh, Miss Brooks, always so. Dramatic. You think I didn't know you switched sides months ago? Lena's face drained of color. Ray barked. You leave her out of this. My dear detective, Hale replied. She was never out of it. She's the reason you're standing in this exact chamber. Ray stiffened. What are you talking about? He growled. Hale's voice dripped venom. Did you think she met Daniel by chance? That she infiltrated my network on her own? No. She was allowed inside, guided, because I needed her to lead you here. Ray's heart dropped. Lena? Lena's eyes widened. Ray, no, he's lying. David stepped forward, eyes narrowing. Hale manipulates, don't listen. But Hale's voice grew sharper. Ask her. How did she know the vault codes? How did she know where to find the mirrored tunnels? How did she know exactly when you'd step into Vegas? Ray's stomach twisted. Lena's breath quickened. Ray, please listen to me. Hale laughed loudly. Should I tell him, Lena? Or will you confess yourself? Lena grabbed Ray's arm, desperation flooding her face. Ray, Hale is twisting things. Yes, I was inside his network, but I wasn't working for him. What about Phoenix? Hale cut in. Lena froze. Ray felt the shift instantly. Phoenix. Lena, Ray whispered slowly. What about Phoenix? Lena's jaw trembled. David stepped forward, positioning himself between Ray and Lena protectively, not understanding the words but sensing the danger. Hale's tone grew smug. "Tell him why you approached Daniel in the first place, Lena." Lena squeezed her eyes shut. "Ray, I didn't have a choice." Ray stepped back as if struck. "What did you do?" Hale answered for her. "She didn't find Daniel because she wanted to protect him." He paused. "She found him because I ordered her to," Lena gasped. No, Ray, that's not..." But Hale continued mercilessly. "She was supposed to watch him, report his behavior, lead him into the tunnels if he got too close, and when he learned too much, she was supposed to hand him over." Ray felt ice spread through his veins. "Lena, tell me he's lying." Lena shook her head violently. "He is twisting it. Yes, I was recruited. Yes, I was used. But I broke away. I tried to protect Daniel. I tried to protect you." Hale laughed again. "Is that why you brought Mercer here? Into my estate? Into my tunnels? Right into my hands?" Ray's heart hammered. "Lena," he whispered, voice cracking. "Did you lead us here?" "No," she cried, tears spilling now. "Ray, I didn't know you were part of the original mission. I didn't know your connections. Hale used me, manipulated me. I swear to you, I fought against him." David growled, furious. "Ray, Hale controls all information. He could be lying." Lena grabbed Ray's shirt. "I would never betray you. I risked everything for Daniel. For you." Ray looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the fear in her eyes. Fear of losing his trust, fear of losing the only allies she had left. But something else flickered behind that fear. "Guilt," Ray whispered. "Lena, is there anything you never told us?" She hesitated, a moment too long. Hale spoke again, cold and amused. "There it is, the silence of truth," Lena choked. "Ray, please, let me explain..." But before she could finish, a deafening explosion shook the chamber. A shockwave blasted through the tunnels. Concrete dust filled the air, and Hale's voice roared over every speaker. "Time's up, Mercer. You want the truth? Come and take it from me." The line cut. All the lights died. Complete darkness swallowed them. Ray's heart dropped. "Everyone, get down!" Water exploded through the ceiling as a flood valve ruptured. A tidal wave thundered toward them. David grabbed Ray and Daniel at once. "Move!" Lena grabbed Elliot, who screamed as water slammed through the chamber. The deluge hit them like a freight train. Ray clung to Daniel with everything he had. David reached for Ray's arm. Their fingers touched. Then the current ripped all of them apart into darkness. And Ray's last thought before he was pulled under was, Hale didn't just split their loyalty, he split the team itself. Stay tuned with us and be ready for the next part of this dark pulse mystery.